just like that, we're live.
Hey, what's up, man?
So thanks for coming out, man. I like episodes. This only happened a couple times where I meet someone through Instagram who listens to the show and we connect and then do a podcast with me. Come on, you know?
Yeah,
and,
it's pretty awesome.
It's just cool. Like the whole social media thing. I actually posted something about this yesterday. Do you know who Nik I'm going to fuck this up. Karahalios? Is that how you say that?
Oh, yeah, I know his name. What's his background?
He's a Marine Raider guy.
Yep.
We met through Instagram, and like, it's more than just, hey, I randomly met this guy and we like each other's stuff. Like, we communicated quite a bit, and I feel like I got to know him. And then I met him this weekend for the first time in person, and it was like, hey, what's up, homie? You know, it was like old friends catching up. And it's cool how, like, in the cesspool that the internet is, it's like anything else in life. You get what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I've been able to connect with so many cool people over the last 24 months that I feel like that's the silver lining in all this, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because that's kind of how I was actually just thinking about social media yesterday and how we, you know, in some sense we waste so much time on it, but really if you use it as a tool or, you know, like a kind of a commodity in life, really, like you can really enhance your life. I mean, from helping businesses out to actually meeting people in person, like we probably would have never ran into each other.
No, yeah,
like naturally,
not a chance.
You know? Well, maybe if I came to your gym kind of thing, but yeah, you know, kind of how those worked out.
And I mean, that's literally anything in life. Like, you can waste your fucking time watching television, or you can feed yourself pretty interesting, valuable knowledge. You know, the books you read, what you do on the internet. And even though I understand it, I still find myself wasting a substantial amount of time on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because those algorithms, they just suck you in, you know,
sure do.
Scroll and scroll. And I set an hour timer on it because I was like, and again, like from a business standpoint, like my sponsors and stuff, I like to share their stuff. And there's also even certain agreements. They're like, you know, if we're going to be a partner with you, we'd like this many advertisements a month or whatever, right?
Week or month, yeah. And
so I use that as like, well, I can't get rid of Instagram because I have agreements professionally, right?
Right.
But it's a cop out because those agreements would take 5 minutes a day at most. Mm-hmm. And I set an hour timer on it. And this is nothing more than a lack of discipline. Do you have a timer on your Instagram?
I do. It's also an hour.
Okay. And when it says
95% of the time I'm popping that thing, you know?
Yeah. And then it says, do you want to go for, you've reached your time limit. Do you want to go for 1 minute, 15 more minutes, or the rest of the day? And it's like every time I just click rest of the day.
Yeah.
So I got to get reined in on that, man.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, there's, like you said, the algorithm sucks you in, but it's just that discipline, or, you know, if you actually make like a schedule or a timeline throughout your day that kind of keeps you accountable, you know, it's a little bit easier to, you know, delegate your time.
And so if you listen to the show, so you know how we do it, right? I don't have a list of questions, and I know a little bit about you, but I don't know that fucking much. Mm-hmm. And I'm an energy guy. You came to practice last night and you felt the vibe of the gym and you fit right in there.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was fun, man.
Awesome. I was just like, oh, you know, if I was in Washington, this would be the gym for sure.
Yeah. And so I was like, dude, this is going to be a fun podcast. I already know. So yeah, just introduce yourself, where you're from, what you're about, what you did, a little bit and we'll just take it from there. Have fun with it, man.
Cool, man. Yeah, so my name's Nik, last name Karahalios, kind of a mess.
That's going to be a tough one for me. Nik K. There's two of you guys now.
Oh yeah, we're fucking it up. Yeah, Karahalios.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, man. It's Greek actually. It means bird of prey.
Oh,
that's kind of dope. Yeah,
that is. That's rad.
About changing it in the past, and I started looking into my history and everything. I was like, I can't change that. It's just gonna be a pain in the ass for everyone else.
It's weird how like. Unique last names are kind of celebrated now.
They are.
Whereas like when my family moved to America several generations ago, our last name was Antonutzen.
Oh, no shit.
And they're like, there's no Antonutzens in America, but there's a lot of Andersons. Let's switch it to just fit in.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was the old assimilation mentality. Yeah.
Yeah. And now there's a part of me that's like, I should probably switch it back to that and like actually carry on my real family lineage.
Yeah.
You know?
Kind of cool.
And so, yeah, where did you're in Arizona now, right?
No, that's where I was born and raised.
That's where
years.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
I've, you know, like you, military stuff. So then after 18 years, bounced around a bunch, you know, all over the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went in the military right out of high school?
Yeah, so kind of story on that. Essentially grew up Arizona, normal family kind of thing. Nuclear family, I guess. Both parents married, pretty good life. My grandfather actually was a Korean War vet, and he was kind of like a big male figure in my life, and so I always got to hear his stories. Deployment, he deployed to Korea, and he used to take me to air shows all the time, and just kind of introduced me to kind of military culture. And that was pretty dope, and so I kind of just went down that typical GI Joe path of wanting to do that kind of thing, and looked into all the different militaries and different branches and the different teams. Wanted to definitely go into a specialized group, and originally it was going to be special forces. And I started actually mentoring on the Quiet Professional forum. Do you remember those? Back in the day when we had only forums to communicate.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I had a mentor and everything on that, and started having me doing ruck runs and just kind of getting prepared for it. A lot of shooting on the side, but obviously I wasn't preparing you for the real military.
Yeah.
And then as I was getting closer, and 9/11 kicked off, and I was kind of sealed the deal on that one, right?
Okay, so we joined around the same time then. I went in 99.
Oh, a little bit later.
Yeah, but
07 is actually.
Oh, okay, 07.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, but just my mentality started early. I don't know, probably in my sub 10 years of age kind of thing. And then I think 9/11, I was probably 13 or somewhere in there. Yeah. And so just kind of knew the path I was going to be going on. So I ended up actually switching to having a Ranger back contract.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was fucking stoked on that. And, honestly, I think I was pretty prepared for it. So 2 weeks after high school, left for the Army. I did the Fort Benning thing, and infantry school was fun. Went to javelin school after that. That was pretty fucking dope.
Is that because of the MOS?
For javelin, or
yeah,
it was just an option, man. I just
so
got
you were
super
just
lucky.
11 Bravo, and then
option 40. I had a full Ranger
Okay,
contract and everything. Yeah, and just
That's
they were
pretty cool,
in
man.
lieu. They're like, hey, who wants to go to javelin school? And I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, you shoot missiles. And I was like, fuck yeah, hell yeah, you go shoot tanks and shit. So that was cool. It was a 2-week class or something like that. No big deal. Went to airborne school, and then we did the run to Ranger, to RIP over there, back when it was RIP.
Was it okay? So when you went through, it hadn't switched to RAS.
No.
That was
No,
08.
it was,
yeah,
I'm not gonna say it's still the hard days or whatever, but they definitely kicked their dicks in.
Yeah, dude, I remember that run from airborne school.
Oh yeah.
To the RIP barracks, and at the time it was a dead sprint.
Oh yeah,
and a guy named Sergeant Rackus picked us up, and he's since passed, but he come to find out he was one of the fastest NCOs down there.
They always send the fastest.
And they
guy.
send because every single person fell out, and so you're 5 minutes into starting your Ranger career, and you just fell out of a run, so you feel like dog shit, right?
Oh yeah. And that was shit the whole time.
And that was in 2000, and so that's good. I'm glad to hear that that's exactly how it continued.
Oh yeah. I don't think things started changing probably till 2000. We'll call it 8.
Okay.
When a certain somebody came into presidency.
Yeah.
So anyway, that dream was short-lived. Essentially, we were doing ruck runs, and I ended up blowing out the arches of both my feet.
Dang.
And so I had severe plantar fasciitis. I was pretty much a broke dick on, got sent over to Worldwide. If you remember that?
Oh, of course I remember
hell of a
Worldwide.
place to be stuck in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was stuck there for, I wouldn't say stuck, but I didn't have it come down with orders for a couple months. And it was
You
just
were
kinda,
at RIP barracks for a few months, huh?
bro, through winter.
So they were just having you rake the rocks,
rake the
and do all the bullshit.
get up for dumb shit. Yeah, and
Because
they would just wake us up for fun at night, with fucking lawnmowers in the barracks rooms, and turn on the AC. And I swear to God, I would have died if I didn't have a whoopee.
Yeah. When I went through RIP, I was medically recycled on the first time through.
Yeah.
And for no reason other than they called my name and they said, hey, if we call your name, fall out, you're a med recycle. And then my name got read.
For no reason?
I don't know. I was like, what the fuck, dude? It felt like no reason. And then they came in, they said, everybody that got called out, your physicals have expired. You can't attend this course with an expired physical. So you can either A, go worldwide, or you can be a recycle in the next RIP class, but the next RIP class was like a month or something.
Yeah.
So we were living the RIP holdovers and the worldwide guys were living that same life. So I feel your pain, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, real kick in the teeth, man. You know, like you got these dreams that you thought you were going to like go this direction. And at the time, you know, like Black Hawk Down, right? Like Ranger Bat was like kind of the pinnacle of like entry into special operations.
Yeah. So you said you looked into special forces. Did they already have the SF baby program starting?
The 18 X-ray?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't remember.
Got it. Because I remember that was that when I went in, that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, the most high speed thing you could do out of high school was a SEAL contract or a Ranger contract.
Yeah, I don't remember if they actually had the option. I just remember like the mentors essentially were like, hey, like go cut your teeth here and then come over here once you're a little bit more mature kind of thing, which was dead on because I was a dumb kid, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The weird thing about selections is like they have to have physical standards, right? Mm-hmm. And they have to have certain benchmarks that have to be met. But like you got fucking hurt and I barely know you, but I can already tell you to fit in perfectly in regiment.
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
I know I would. Yeah, I've met plenty of dudes that are, you know, and bad boys.
Yeah,
you know,
and
like,
so it's like people. Those are your people, and it sucks that it's like you can do everything right, and selections still get a lot of the guys that did everything right. They just tweaked a knee, or in your case, blew their arches out, and it's like fuck, man, because the other side of that coin is there's plenty of dudes that get through that probably shouldn't be there.
Oh yeah,
and that's always the truth with any, even in the
guys
unit,
slip through, right?
You know, yeah. So then, after you went worldwide, where did you end up getting orders to?
Fucking 82nd.
Oh, really?
yeah. You know, it sucked because I watched other guys get to go to Vincenza and stuff, or the 173rd, and I was like, that'd be fucking cool, right? Go to Italy.
That'd be a cool, like, regardless of the unit itself. That'd just be a cool military experience.
Exactly.
You're in your early 20s or late teens, and you're living in Europe for a while.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. But no, went to the 82nd, which, I mean, it was cool. You know, it kind of put me on a path to a deployment, like, pretty short thereafter. But, yeah, so it was kind of funny, you know, like, February. So I think I started RIP in October, and I was there till February. So, like, 4 months almost. And I got bronchitis right before my ship date to Bragg was. So I show up to Bragg, get stuck in their old World War II shitty barracks, you know, where there's fucking paintballs on the walls and fucking all the doors are kicked in, and, you know, big open bay shitters, and, you know, that old barracks experience. Yeah. And then, you know, I get picked up by my unit, show up there, and they're like, hey, day one, we're doing a 5-mile run. I'm like, I got fucking bronchitis, like, and my feet are just healing, and they're just like, don't fucking fall out. You know, it's just a bunch of alcoholics, essentially.
I always joke,
it just reeks of it.
E7, if you stay in the military and you're E7 or above, being an alcoholic is a prerequisite.
Oh, and a DUI at least, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's how it used to be, at least. Yeah.
There's someone somewhere saying, oh, what the fuck, this bull. Now, you know it's true.
Yeah, if you were in the 4, we'll call it 08 again.
Yeah.
You know, like before politics
At least in the infantry MOS.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, got to my unit. I was over at the 3rd Brigade, 1505. Pretty good group of guys. And had probably, I think, 8 months or so of a train up. So kind of flowed right into their train up for a deployment to Iraq. Kind of towards the end of that train up, they actually moved me over to headquarters and put me onto this new team concept called a company fusion cell. So it's kind of like an intel cell, like
fusion cell.
That's what they call it, a CFC. You know,
it sounds badass. It sounds badass.
Sounds cool. And I mean, what it was actually kind of, I'm not gonna say a blessing in disguise, but it gave me more responsibility. Kind of cut me out of like the typical line experience, and it was all about kind of targeting. And then I got to go to like the Raven UAV school.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like introduction to like ISR and aviation. Before I fucking even knew what that was, I was just like, fuck, I've had extra duties, right? And I was like, you know, you don't realize, you know, what it actually is, and it's actually giving you more responsibility, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
and how long had you been there before you made the switch to that?
Like maybe 6 months.
Okay,
already.
so still pretty new.
Yeah, I hadn't like promoted or anything. It's like very, very green. Just learning how to like be an infantry dude, like just on the line.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we're standing this up, and you got pulled from your platoon and you're coming over here and working with these guys.
Did you volunteer for that, or were you voluntold?
Voluntold.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they just kind of either went. I don't know if it was like, hey, which guy do you not want, or which guy do you think is like would stand out or do well in this kind of thing. I don't really know what.
I'm gonna guess it was the latter, but
I hope so. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Just kind of like learn all that stuff. I got to go to a bunch of briefings. Got to go speak with Admiral Mike Mullen, which is, again, I didn't know what the fuck that meant at the time, but I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Got a coin from him, like whatever. And then, deployed and, kind of funny. I've got a long history of injuries through the military. It started like right in essentially like, Ranger Bat, essentially. It's kind of like where that injury list started, but ended up breaking my trigger finger, working out in the gym right before we went to Kuwait. And fucking so, we're getting to Iraq and I got this, splint on my finger. I'm trying to like shoot with my middle finger and everything and manipulate because I'm a lefty, right? And so I'm trying to manipulate a safety with my thumb and, it's just all fucked up. You just kind of make it work.
They let you deploy though, huh?
Oh, yeah. They didn't give a fuck. This is 07.
Yeah.
So, things are still hot. The surge is still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. We got to Iraq in the end of 08, right before, kind of the changeover of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Which sucked because, we got there. It was like hard knocks, doing some good work and everything. And, next day changeover kind of thing when Obama took over, they're like, hey, now you're going to start doing this like joint operation thing. We're going to stand up the Iraqi army and the Iraqi police and all that bullshit. And it's like, we were probably just in firefights with these guys. And now we're going to take all these American taxpayers and start paying these guys to like man these checkpoints. And it was a real big mind fuck because the whole train up before deployment was like, hey, we're going to fucking war, we're gonna go kill a bunch of fucking people and it's gonna be fucking awesome. Our first sergeant was fucking hard as shit,
dude. The strange thing is like, when did our military suddenly decide that our mission from like fucking going in and destroying is now nation building? And here's the thing, if you want to incorporate nation building, if you want to go in and fucking crush a country and then you want a nation build, I promise you don't want to use the same guys.
No.
Because fucking 21-year-old 11 Bravos aren't interested in nation building.
No.
Like figure it the fuck out. But that's exactly what they did.
I think we know who to blame. It's military industrial complex.
Yeah.
People, politicians, really, right? Because they kind of dictate how these wars go now.
100%.
It's all about money and, how long can we extend this dollar and keep taxing the American people?
Yep.
That's really, it was so obvious. Like even 19, 20 years old, and I was already figuring it out. I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Handing out $10,000 micro grants to these fucking asshole, farmers who we know for a fact they're not going to build a well, they're not going to build a school, they're going to take that cash and literally like, give it to themselves.
Bro, I have pictures because after I got out of the military, I did a bunch of contract work with State Department. Mm-hmm. And so State Department was directly in charge of assigning different like officials to oversee different Iraqi government officials. So if you were a governor of a province or mayor of a city, we would have a State Department diplomat shadow them and kind of show them how democracy works, right?
Yeah.
Even though their culture is the complete opposite of that.
Completely. It's all power and control.
Exactly. And so we would give these guys literally hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time, fresh off the U.S. Mint. I got pictures of $100 bills stacked in pyramids on tables that are like 3 times the size of this table, 3-4 feet high. And we would, that was part of our duties and responsibilities. And we'd go to the Bank of Ramadi and deposit like $500,000 in U.S. currency, $100 bills at a time. And you'll be shocked to hear this, but one time we deposited like $500,000 and Al-Qaeda in Iraq seized the bank the next day and took all the money.
Yeah, because they knew.
Who would have thought that would have happened, right?
Big shocker, right?
We used to say, we're like, what we should probably do is just take all this money, bury it in the desert, put a 10, like mark it with a 10-digit grid, and come back here in 2 decades and grab this and split it amongst the team because we knew that money was as good as fucking gone anyways.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? But one thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about being an infantry battalion that was doing good work, right? Man, a lot of the special operations community, we got the spotlight on us the whole time through the GWAT. right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially Ranger Bat, you guys grew up so much. Like you guys probably progressed as a unit, as a regiment,
for sure.
probably more than any other unit out there.
But make no mistake, like the regular Army and Marine infantry battalions were doing the hardest work of the war. And I saw that firsthand in Ramadi because we were out there with 2-4 and 2-5 Marine infantry battalions. And it's like, oh, fuck. That's what combat is. Like those kids were going all day, all night, door to door, just sweeping the city, hours and hours and hours of CQB on end.
Oh yeah.
And then they'd get back and they had they had a little secure area at the government center. They had a place called Combat Outpost. They had a place called Snake Pit, like these little areas in Ramadi where they'd go back and like refit and get some chow and hydrate and then right back out on the streets.
Yeah.
And bro, in April of 2004 in Ramadi, they were literally filling deuce and a halves full of bodies from all of the fucking the fallout of all the combat that those kids were doing. And it was something it looked like something out of the Holocaust. And I don't know, there's no pictures of this anywhere because remember, like, well, I guess you weren't part of the war in the early days, but OBSEC was everything.
It's still carried on.
It's still carried on.
That's actually one of my, I don't want to call it biggest regret, but essentially my time in the infantry and deployment was actually that same time where OBSEC was everything. You couldn't video anything, couldn't take pictures. Like social media was just becoming, like it was just getting invented really. And I've got like a handful of photos, which fucking sucks because I'm sure like you got a handful of TBIs too, and now I'm starting to lose all those memories.
Yep. No, so and it was
photos are big.
You know, you see like Mike Glover. Do you follow Mike? You got his fucking hat on. Of course, he's actually going to be here next weekend.
Oh fuck
yeah, he's doing a course.
For
at my range. I'm excited to have him out here. But he posts like a military picture a day.
I know. I'm just like, how the fuck?
And I remember thinking that as like, man, Mike had the wherewithal to document his life. Mm-hmm. And whereas like I have some stuff from Afghanistan, but like
they're like the on the base though group photo type thing,
yeah,
right? You know, it's always like not the on the base, like in a safe spot where you're not doing work, but somehow some of these guys get these like fucking awesome action shots. I'm like, where the fuck was your combat cameraman? Like, like what the hell?
But then the other side of it is when we were deploying early, you'd sneak a couple Kodak cameras that had, I think they had 24 pictures on them each, and you'd have to wind it. It's like click, 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 click.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I think this is a good picture. And you'd snap it, and you wouldn't know if it was a good picture or not until 5 months later, you drop it off at Rite Aid, and you pick it up, and you're
good
like, dude, oh, look, I got one good picture or whatever. Whereas now, like, the kids can take their iPhones and probably get 10,000 pictures of a deployment.
Oh yeah, they just video their entire deployment, essentially pull screenshots.
Yeah.
And they're just like every fucking day they got something new going on.
Which I'm kind of jealous, I'm not going to lie. Because if we had some videos of like our ambushes and shit in Ramadi,
fuck yeah,
it would have been rad, dude. Mm-hmm. Where were you at in Iraq on your first deployment?
I was south of Baghdad in like the Salampak province and the Medain province.
Okay.
Kind of like right where that, was it the Tigris out there, right? I think. So it's kind of like right where the dick of the Tigris is.
And I guess 08,
09.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was the tail end pretty much of the surge, so it was kind of hot, and then it just kind of died off as well.
Man, isn't it? You mentioned the military industrial complex, and it's crazy to think back now. I'm 41 now. I had to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, they got on TV, and they're like, this guy has weapons of mass destruction and he supported 9/11, and we're all just like, let's go.
War hungry.
You know? That was all bullshit. You know what I mean?
Dude, the older I get, the more fucking pissed I get about it.
And it's like, dude, I dedicated my whole life of my 20s.
Yeah.
Like my last deployment, I was 29. My first deployment, I was 21. And there was 14 deployments in between those two. And it's like, fuck, dude, that's a whole decade of your life. And I always say this when I talk about it. I'm grateful for it, and I don't think I'd change it if I could, because it really helped me grow into who I am personally, right? But that's a micro scale. On the macro scale, it's pretty fucked up that our government.
And how many thousands of people died?
Yeah, and not only
Americans,
but like, I mean, they estimate that 1 million Iraqis,
yeah,
1 million, like 1 million people died in a war that we perpetuated over what? And when you detach like emotionally from it, and you also detach like, oh, I'm an American and I support let's just look at the facts, because people are people, right?
Oh yeah.
They just happen to be born on a different patch of dirt.
Yeah, unfortunate. So
we have a government that decides to wage war, 1 million people die, and we think that we're the good guys. That's been something that I've been thinking about lately. It's like, oh fuck, we were the bad guys. And like, dude,
yeah,
if
flip roles, right?
Yeah, if a military came into America and started running their tanks down our streets and setting up checkpoints, and dude, we would just go search houses. You know what I mean? Like you get a little piece of intel that, oh, this house has an IED maker in it.
Mm-hmm. That was early intel too, where we just take anything and run with it.
Yeah, and there's no Fourth Amendment over there. Like, we're just kicking your door and we're searching your house.
Tossing everything. Yeah.
Think if somebody came here and kicked my fucking door down and decided to search my house, I'm fighting you to the death. Yeah. And so now you think about it from that perspective, and it's like, of course those people wanted to fucking kill us. Why? They're obligated to want to kill us. If they're fucking men and they have families and these motherfuckers are just doing whatever they want, like...
Well, not to mention how we flipped Iraq on its head, right?
Yeah.
We went in there, removed Saddam, removed his military and everything. We didn't, we had these people that were in power there, before under Saddam, and we, instead of transitioning them into government positions because they're already authority figures, we literally just fired them all.
Yeah.
The whole military we fired.
We're going to start from the ground up. Yeah. And we tried to start from the ground up implementing a Western ideology. And it's like, hey, motherfuckers, like our ideology has worked well inside of our borders, but to think that we can just go perpetuate that anywhere we want at any time we want, and it's just going to work without any issues, you're fucking delusional, And another thing that I think about, it's like, when America fought for its freedom and separated from the British rule, a lot of men decided, hey, this is what we have to fucking do. We're going to put everything on the line and we're going to make this happen. And so your liberty and your independence and your freedom came from a mindset of like, I'm willing to risk everything to earn this. And I think that makes people appreciate it a little differently. And if just one day you're handed, hey, here's your freedom, you can do whatever you want now. What we saw in Ramadi is, oh, we're free now? Well, I've always hated my neighbor, so I'm going to go kill that guy. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, motherfuckers, that's not what we're calling freedom. That's what you're interpreting freedom as. Yeah. But with their culture and how they're raised and what their experiences growing up, ultimate power kind of allows you to do whatever you want. So now they're like, okay, well, I've always hated this guy, so I'm going to go behead him or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Or even like old, past transgressions from like generational family issues.
100%. Yeah.
And like, again, that's not the American way, right? Or that's not how they do it. That's how they've never done it. We can't just walk in and expect them to just change and assimilate to our way of life because they don't understand that.
And it never fucking worked.
No.
And like... we put so much money and resources into it. So many lives were lost. And the Iraq war, when was the pullout of Iraq? I remember it's a few years before Afghanistan.
Was it the official time? 'Cause that was one of Obama's like champion things, right? So it must have been like 15 or 16.
Okay.
Or I guess 15 then, right?
And then just ISIS took over and everything imploded.
Flopped in. Yeah, they just moved right in, took over everything. They seized like the banks over there, became like one of the richest terrorist organizations like overnight.
Have you seen that video where it's Obama saying, they literally take like 20 clips. He's like, I promised to get everybody out of Iraq and I did. I promised to end the war in Iraq and I did. And it's literally like him saying that 20 times.
Yeah, just championing himself.
Yeah.
Patting his back.
And then the last one was like a reporter asking him, was like, do you think pulling out of Iraq in the manner that we did with hindsight and seeing what has happened in the country with the rise of ISIS, do you still think that pulling out of Iraq was a good idea? And he goes, I find it interesting how somehow people think it was my choice to pull out of Iraq.
Yeah. They'll backpedal all day, man. These fucking politicians.
I fucking hate that, dude. Like and I don't care if you're on the right or if you're on the left. The biggest problem with our politicians is they're playing a game, and that game is not rooted in authenticity. And it's like, dude, if you fuck something up, just fucking own it, right? If these motherfuckers would come out over all the COVID bullshit, if someone would just say, hey guys, in 2020, we were unsure of what this looked like, and we were scared, and we allowed fear to kind of dictate some of our decision-making processes, and we didn't do things in a manner that was probably best suited to serve the American people, and we apologize for that.
Yeah, we'll never hear that.
You never fucking hear that.
No.
And this is what these losers don't realize. Like, that's the best thing you could do to build leadership capital. If you would show people some humility and admit fault, like, because I don't care who you are. Everybody fucks up, right?
Oh, yeah.
If they could just admit and take some ownership of that, I think that would actually make the American people say, oh, that's a real one. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. We have very, very few actual leaders in like our leadership positions.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only one is Rand Paul, you know?
Yeah, he's been about the same the whole time too.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is his dad, Ron Paul, was one of the only people that was saying back in 2003, we don't have legal authority to raid a sovereign nation of Iraq. This is the military industrial complex trying to fucking churn its wheels. He said it and remember everybody's like that he's acting crazy, you know? Mm-hmm. He was fucking right.
Yeah, it was.
You know, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So then after that, let's go back to your military stuff. After that first deployment, where did life take you?
Yeah, so after that, it kind of went right back to the 82nd. I actually tried to stay in Iraq longer, and Sergeant Major essentially kicked that down. And he's like, specialist, whatever. Like, you have no business staying here. We're taking you back. You're one of our numbers.
Yeah.
That kind of sucked because I was like definitely in like just the flow of things, and I was used to that lifestyle. By
how long was that deployment?
It was a 12-month.
Fuck, man. Like, and you didn't have you're single, no responsibilities back home at the time, or
no. I was 19, 20. Yeah, I think I turned 20 over there. Yeah, so nothing. I had nothing, like no reason to come back kind of thing. Like I just wanted to keep doing war, and I was hoping to get into a better unit that would be more kinetic, and you're just kind of always like dreaming for more work essentially.
And I think that's a mindset that most of us held at that time, and I think it's hard for people to understand. Mm-hmm. But war.
Think about being like a young male adult, like for some of us, right? It was a big test of like your personal mettle, you know, like you just want to see like, hey, can I do this? Will I do this? Like, how am I going to perform? And then
100%, bro.
Yeah. And it's that challenge against yourself, and then, against your peers too.
And that's one thing that I say about combat. Why, like, if I could go do it over again, would I? Yes, I would. Regardless of all the shit that we just discussed. For me, what war did for me and my spirit, it proved to me that when I'm confronted with extreme violence, that I can perform under pressure, that I'm not afraid, that I can do what needs to get done, and I don't allow like
self-preservation.
Yeah, and I know as a man that if someone breaks into my fucking house and I have to defend my family with my life, it's not something I think I can do. It's something I know I can do because I've walked that path and I put myself through that test. And like Andy Stump always says, he was average at best. And I like to I love that because I think that's a good place to come from and have humility. But even at average as a Ranger, I also left knowing, okay, I was proud of how I acted over there. I didn't allow fear to dictate me. I didn't allow these experiences where if most people think of getting shot at with RPGs, that sounds like a terrifying experience. But when you're in that moment, it's actually kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but until you're in that moment, it's basically you're playing Call of Duty at the highest stakes.
Yeah.
And everybody that's there understands kind of the game we're playing. And who are we fighting? A bunch of young, early 20 Iraqi and Syrian and Chechnyan. Yeah. And they were doing the same thing we were doing. You think
Yeah.
they gave a fuck? Like, they wanted to test themselves. We wanted to test ourselves. And the world created a scenario that allowed us to face each other on the field of
gave us a
battle.
battleground, yeah.
It's kind of fucking nuts, dude. And I honestly think you could say, hey, listen, there's no war going on. All of our countries are at peace and there's no mission. But if you're a 21-year-old American that wants to fight against 21-year-old Syrians, we're going to allow this little piece of ground. We're going to take this city, and basically you guys can play paintball with live rounds.
Yeah.
People would go do it.
Fuck, obviously, right? How many people have been volunteering to go to Ukraine right now?
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Like,
you know,
business, we have no reason to be there, but yeah, they still volunteer to go get their jihad on, essentially, right?
yeah. So it's a strange thing that is it's just inherent in young men. And bro, I mean, I'm 41 and I still have it in me. There's still a part of me that's like, man, like, feel good to go fuck dudes up. You know, that's always in us.
Oh yeah.
And so it's cool. It's kind of interesting just seeing that natural progression as you grow into a man. And if you don't have that desire in you, I think you're weird. You know what I mean? Like, if you just want to be a Starbucks barista and you don't want to jump out of helicopters and fuck dudes up, like,
Just not cut from the same
yeah,
cloth.
exactly, dude. We're not the same.
Yeah.
And so, like, they denied that deployment.
Yeah,
You
they
came
denied
home.
deployment. Came back home. Kind of did the typical R&R thing. I started. I just saw the next, path laid out, which was probably at least 2 years before we're slotted for another deployment, another train up of the exact same thing. Like, they don't do anything special really in the 80 seconds, just literally like cookie cutter pace kind of thing for train up. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I need to do something more. It's kind of, I'm not gonna say I was disappointed in my deployment, but like, it wasn't as much as I wanted.
Yeah.
So I looked at all my options. So I walked over to the special operations, like, recruiting guys, and I was like, hey, let's do an SF contract. So I got a selection date for that, and trying to think of how far back to pedal, but essentially ended up getting a speeding ticket or something like that. That was like completely unjustified because the car like went to go run me off the road. I only rode motorcycles for like the first 4 years in the military, and I swerved off of that vehicle and like accelerated to not get hit, essentially. And there was a cop that was undercover ahead of them, and then they pulled me over and said I was speeding. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a lawyer and fight this. While that's happening, I go to SF selection, get through like a couple, can't remember, like the first week or so of it, and they're going through, background checks and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, hey, you got, pending legal charges. So, fortunately, you can't stay here until that stuff's clear. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I have a lawyer taking care of it for this exact reason.
For a fucking traffic violation?
A traffic violation, man. Yeah. Yeah, it sucked because I was like in pretty good shape already because I'd just been training. I actually started putting on weight when I were in Iraq, and I came back and just kind of stayed on that path. Because I got out of basic and I was a scrawny, little 19-year-old, 18-year-old, really.
As everybody is.
Right, like 150 pounds or whatever, and come back from Iraq, and I'm probably like 190 or something like that. So.
Did that have anything to do with the Iraqi pharmacies?
It would be like the. It wasn't any
you
like
don't have to answer that question.
Whatever. It is what it is, right? But yeah, nothing really special. But yeah, anyway, great shape, and got a fucking another unfortunate event come up.
Fuck, man.
And come back, and at that point I was let's see. I think I was married, actually. So I did the typical go to war, get fucking mentally broken, come back and look for humanity again.
Yeah.
And the first person said, I love you. Like literally. So it was like within 4 months of being back, I was married. Like real dumb shit,
Bro, that's almost everybody though in that life.
Yeah. Definitely a statistic for sure.
Did you meet her in Fayetteville?
Oh yeah, I was actually deployed with her brother.
Okay.
So that was a fun little, dynamic. Yeah. But yeah, met her. She was actually in like a neighboring town, Wilmington.
Okay. Yeah.
So we get married, kind of just an absolute disaster kind of from the get go. You come back, you're drinking a lot, and it's just like partying and drinking, just being young and dumb. After the SF thing happened, I came back and I was like pretty fucking pissed off, and I was just kind of like looking at what to do next. I had a Ranger School packet all put together, it was approved and everything. I was like, cool, I'll go do this. And then, my ex-wife and I were both like, hey, we got to get the fuck out of here. Like, sick of Fayetteville, sick of North Carolina. Let's go do something different. And so I went back to the recruiter and I was like, hey, what else do we got out here? And I was like, I just want to go to fucking war. I want to deploy. I want to go do some more work. And they're like, well, I got a job for you, EOD. Okay. So I was like, what's this? And I'm like, because I didn't know what it was. I saw them on the base when we were in Iraq, and I was like, who are these fucking guys just hanging out in their fucking cool little, tent with all their shit, and they got all the snacks and everything in there, and their cool truck, and that was all it was. A bunch of ordnance scattered all over the place around them. I was like, I don't fucking know what these guys are. Come to find out what they do, EOD, they're pretty much like the front line on the IED fight at the time, which was killing almost everybody.
So is that what motivated you then, knowing that like that's the most dangerous weapon on the battlefield being used against us?
Yeah, exactly. And it was like
that's interesting to me, because I've always said, who the fuck volunteers for EOD?
So
and I hadn't heard that perspective before.
I looked at it like it was the most dangerous game.
Okay,
and you don't want to fucking lose, And I was like, this sounds cool, and it's like, hey, this is also for smart people. It's one of the highest attrition schools like in the military.
Okay.
So I was like, let's fucking do this. I did like a bomb suit test, talked to those guys. They cool people, but it was like a complete change from the infantry. It was, instead of like, being a sergeant or whatever and getting your dick smoked for doing some dumb shit, or, your younger guys doing something stupid, like, and everyone's just kind of getting smoked and treated like shit. It's like, hey, we're adults here and we treat each other, like adults, first name basis, all that kind of stuff. And that was a whole culture change for me.
Isn't that fucking rad though?
It was everything I needed and wanted, really.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had to get kind of corrected when I first went to school, because the first phase was in, at the time, Redstone, Arsenal, Alabama, and it's a couple months, and day 1, week 1, I was like one of the senior guys at that point, because you can actually go like fresh off the street into EOD.
Okay, so you were
for Army.
You were in E5 at the time. Then?
E4 still.
E4, okay.
Yeah. And some of these like younger new Joes who just got out of fucking basic and now they're going through EOD school are like dicking around. I start smoking them, because I'm like, this is what we do, right? You just start smoking dumb Joes for doing dumb shit.
And they're like, whoa.
And then like, the staff sergeant, like NCOs pulled me aside, like, hey, we don't fucking do that over here. Like, just go talk to them like adults, tell them not to do this shit. And if they don't like fix it, then we'll handle it different ways. And I was like, oh, like, okay, so we're humans now. Like that's weird. But yeah,
that's cool.
It was pretty cool. Yeah. So that was phase 1, and then phase 2 goes to Eglin Air Force Base in like Destin, Florida, nice little Florida area. Awesome place to be.
6th RTB.
Yep. Yeah, they're right out there too. And it was cool. So we started off with 26 people in my first phase, and then most of them went to second phase in Eglin. And that was a cool school, man. Very technical. I got to work with all 4 branches, which was awesome. Started off in an all-Army class, and I actually rolled in air division. So you kind of go through all these different divisions where it's like tools and ground and history and nukes and radiological weapons. And
so each branch of the military sends their EOD specialists through the same pipeline?
It's like one of the only schools that does it. It's so fucking cool, because you meet so many different people. You talk to, Navy, you can come off the street, Air Force off the street, Army off the street. Marine Corps, though, they're pretty cool. They actually say you have to have like a couple years and like hit a couple benchmarks in your career before you can like volunteer for EOD.
Got it.
So you get this like more mature people in the Marine Corps.
It doesn't surprise me. In my experience, and I know people like always inter-service fucking rivalries, right? But in my opinion, the Marine Corps is the most professional branch of the military.
Oh yeah.
That's what I seen. That's what my experience was. Like our special operations in the Army are, in my opinion, the pinnacle. But just the overall, like if you're taking the branch as a whole, Marine Corps all the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, and I've lifelong friends from the Marine Corps now. And it's for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Like they're just solid dudes. So got through that, and the whole one of the big purposes of going to EOD was so I could go and deploy and do work. So come orders time, and I get orders to one of the only units that is a non-deploying unit. Yeah, what the fuck?
The universe wanted you to stay alive, bro. Even though you wanted to get blown up.
That's the hindsight like 15 years later.
Yeah.
got all my fingers, got all my toes, all that kind of stuff. And I got to do a lot of really cool work when I did go to my unit. So I went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, the 55th EOD.
Never heard of it.
Nobody would hear of it. Nobody probably even knows where Fort Belvoir is. It's like 20 miles south of DC. It used to be like considered like an SMU, and they did like some nukes and weapons of mass destruction, kind of dirty bomb stuff. It's transitioned when I got there, it already transitioned to more of they call it a VIP unit essentially. So like VIPs, doing a lot of work with Secret Service and presidents and VP and foreign dignitaries and stuff like that. And,
Got it.
And then also doing response in like the area of like DC, Maryland, surrounding states, and some backstop missions, and occasionally we get a deployment here and there, kind of thing.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So like dignitary protection, meaning like you guys are part of the advanced crew sweeping
exactly
venues
so
and that kind of stuff.
Whenever one of these protectees is going somewhere, there's that whole advanced crew that goes there. We sweep the whole area, kind of make sure things are safe and kind of on standby as things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was it was cool. Got to it was all plainclothes type of stuff. You kind of get to be like again an adult at that time.
And you did all this under one enlistment, or did you have to re-enlist by this time?
When did I re-enlist? I did over 8 years, so I definitely re-enlisted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
I don't know where that happened. Yeah. I actually forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely must have re-enlisted at some point.
Or you just forgot to ETS. Like
also
this,
could have happened.
This guy won't go home.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know when that happened, actually.
Well, it didn't happen overseas because you would have remembered your tax-free bonus.
Definitely did not. No. Yeah. I think I was already infantry when I re-enlisted. Yeah.
Okay.
Must have happened there.
So then you did, that sounds like
EOD.
That sounds like a good gig.
It was awesome, man. Yeah, lots of good work. I did over 100 protected missions, got to do some cool travel missions, went to Colombia. Do you remember the Summit of the Americas, a big scandal with Secret Service and strippers and not strippers but really hookers. Well, they're called working girls there. It's totally legal. Yeah. So I was actually still married at the time there, so I actually didn't partake in any of the fun, but I knew a lot of the dudes that were having a good time.
Let's talk offline
about that.
I'm kidding, bro.
I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Big statute of limitations over on that one.
I don't remember all the details of that, but I remember thinking those guys are fucking idiots, dude, because
it was just
they shot themselves in the foot.
It's been happening for years. Every single time they do this, it happens.
Yeah.
The only issue this time was politics, and these dum-dums didn't want to pay their hookers.
That's right. That's
all it was.
That's right. I forgot. I remember when you were telling the story, I was like, I remember thinking these guys were fucking idiots, but what was the catalyst that caused me to think, they didn't pay them. And now it caused a fucking problem, and it brought the story to light, right?
Well, bro, it was interesting because again, politics. As soon as we got off the bird there, their essential like equivalent of like their FBI, whatever that's called, was documenting and tracking all of us. They were just sitting there creating target packets on us, and filming everything. They had informants, whatever. And as the thing that really kicked it off was one of the guys didn't want to pay the girl. So she's like, I'm going to call the cops. So there's a police report, Then as they're recording everything, they've got all this video footage of like these other guys like pulling cash out of the ATM, turning around and giving it to the chicks, So it's like they all shot themselves in the foot. And it wasn't just like Secret Service. It was our dog handlers. A couple of those guys got fried. And actually, I think it was 7th SF group was out there at the time too. But they got covered up like the day it came out. Like it was like, hey, SF guys are doing the same thing, and they're like, no, focus on like the Secret Service. So it was like a whole big ordeal, but it was cool for me because I was just like watching it all happen, like, hey, living vicariously through you guys, and getting to see Colombia is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. So you obviously, good lesson, right? Do the right thing, and you dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember when I was a young ranger, like all of our training ops were against the FARC in Colombia. Because that was like the only thing going. And so like that was our main focus, the regiment's main focus. And then 9/11 happens, like, oh wait, we don't care about the FARC anymore.
No. Yeah, you actually had a real enemy that you could focus on.
So then after you did the plainclothes stuff, like how did you get back into like an operational unit?
For EOD?
Yeah.
That's actually where I got out of the military.
Oh, okay.
From that unit, yeah.
Whoa. So you stayed there for a while then.
Yeah, I was there for EOD for like a little over 4 years. But essentially what happened, while I was at that unit, the whole time I was trying to deploy. I was just like on every volunteer list I could to get to any unit, but I was also working through my ranks. I ended up going through staff sergeant, became an EOD team leader, which is kind of like the pinnacle job in EOD. Learned my job. I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but like I was kind of became one of the shining stars in the unit. I got voluntold, and volunteered myself for pretty much any option I could. So had a lot of cool jobs there. I was in charge of like all the IEDs and the armory and comms and just a whole bunch of shit that the unit had. And I'd go to like the SF, like when we go train with like a group over at Bragg. I'd go train with those guys because the EOD battalion had an SF support unit over there, and we do just a bunch of different like soft training.
Yeah.
So I volunteered for a couple different selections while I was at the unit. EOD has a handful of like SMU units. So one's like the 28th EOD. They're out of Bragg, and they actually work with the Ranger Bat and other agencies and stuff like that. Went to selection there as an E5, and I had just gotten promoted or like just passed the board for staff sergeant actually. And I was like, this is where I want to fucking go. I know what you guys do and everything. Smoked the selection, did really well. And they're like, hey, got some bad news. We just found out that you're like going to get promoted to staff sergeant. We don't have any space for staff sergeants here. They only need like level 1s and level 2s, which is like E4, E5s. So that fucking sucked, But I was like, okay, cool. On to the next thing. So I'm just like volunteering for deployments. And every time it's like, hey, we got a spot for you. You're going in like 3 weeks or whatever. I'm gearing up, packing up my bags. And they're like, hey, that spot fell through. Essentially, they just didn't want to like lose guys from their MTO and volunteer them for other places.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool. How about another selection? So I threw it out to Delta because they've got an EOD specific like support EOD guys. And
so if you go to the unit as an EOD guy, do you have to go through?
Not the full operator course. They have a support side of it, yeah, which is like an abbreviated course.
Got it.
Essentially, you're not technically an operator, but you're support for them, and you go on the missions, and you're kind of a priority guy to bring with you because they want to have at least one EOD guy usually.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck yeah, this is exactly where I need to go. And they're like, hey, go get some more experience. Like, go to this unit. And it was the 21st EOD. So that's a unit out of Albuquerque, and they specialize in WMDs and nukes and dirty bombs and some other like special stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, cool. Put in a selection packet for that, went to that, got through it just fine, had a really good time actually. Like as I've gone through career, I've actually learned to enjoy kind of the suck of things. And it was like I remember being on like I think it was like a 21-mile ruck or whatever, and just getting my dick punched in, and I got blisters all over the feet and everything at that point, and laughing with the guys. They're like, you can see it on their face, they're like sad. I'm just like fucking laughing about it. Like, let's just fucking like it's gonna end. We're not gonna die. Like, you don't die in selection. I mean, bro, sometimes you do, but
very yeah,
but very rarely. It's designed to pass. So it's like, if you understand that concept, just don't fucking quit. Keep fucking driving on.
Bro, that's the weird thing about selections. They're not looking to see how tough your body is, because like obviously there is a physical standard that has to be met, right? So if you can't pass the physical standard, then yeah, you're right. They are looking for how tough your body is. But most people that are standing in those ranks on day one, their bodies are tough enough. You didn't get there without a body that doesn't work. They're looking at your mind. And I remember even as a 18-year-old kid or whatever it was when I was in Ranger Indoc, I remember thinking like, I'll die before I quit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't even know where that came from, but it was just, there was never a point in selection where I was like, man, oh fuck, I wonder if I'm going to quit today. Today's really, really hard, and I'm feeling like I might quit. Like, that wasn't even in my fucking mind.
Yeah, it's not an option
at all. And I remember like a guy that I went to RIP with was one of my homies. You know how like through boot camp and airborne school, if you share that experience with a couple guys, they feel like your best friend by the end of it. Even though it's only
the tightest bonds are made, man, in suffering.
Even though it's only 6 months together or whatever it was. And so we went through basic together, we went through AIT together, we went through airborne school together, and then we got to RIP. And he quit. And he's like, I didn't expect it to be this hard, man. I can't handle it. And I remember thinking like, what are you talking? what are you fucking talking about? You know, but that's what they're looking for. You know,
I had the exact same experience. Basic, airborne, javelin, literally 2 rip. And he's like, hey dude, I'm fucking over this. I'm just going to go to the unit, quit with me. And I was like, fuck. Like,
yeah. What? Like, what are you talking about?
Why would you, I just don't want to do it anymore.
And this is my rule for military schools or selections that I tell people. If you reach a point where you want to quit, right? You have to tell yourself, okay, like, let's say you come to terms that you don't want to be a ranger for whatever reason. I want to quit. I've decided I don't want to be a ranger. Graduate, rip, and then quit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because then you can look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I could take everything they threw at me, but I came to terms that this unit isn't for me for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, it's not a bad way to look at it.
That's how you have to look at it. And that way you can fucking walk away with your head held high. But if you say, oh, you know what? I don't want to be a fucking ranger in the middle of a 21-mile ruck, that's not you saying you don't want to be a ranger. That's you mentally breaking.
Yeah, actually quitting.
And they gotcha.
Yeah.
You know? The one thing that I really like about buds is having them ring a bell. I was like,
yeah,
I think every selection should have a
demoralizing,
because what do they call it in RIP? LOM, lack of motivation.
Oh,
that's what they used to call it.
Yeah.
And, I've told this story on the podcast before, but when we were at Cole Range holding logs above our head and it was like pissing rain out, each squad had to hold a log. And the cadre is like, listen up, guys, you can fucking be out here for 3 minutes, 3 hours, or 3 days. It's up to you. But those logs don't touch the fucking ground until 2 people quit. So if you're cold, if you're hungry, if you don't want to be here, just do the right thing now and square these guys away. And then they're like, and if you do quit, you get to come over to the fire and you get to grill hot dogs with the cadre. And fucking A, bro, they eventually got their 2 quitters. And I just, to this day, can you imagine holding, and here's the thing, in a log drill, if you walk away, you're not just quitting, you're fucking everybody else in your squad. Because the 100 pounds or whatever that you were responsible for is now getting displaced between the other men there.
Yeah, you're literally just taking, shucking your weight essentially and just giving it to your buddies and fucking them over.
And so
it's like a double lose, right? Like,
yeah,
not only
of
you're
course.
quitting on yourself, you're quitting on your other people.
Yep. And but then again, that's if you're wired to do that, I don't want to carry this load anymore. I'm going to make other men shoulder this. We don't fucking want you here.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Happy they quit.
So then, I mean, you went through the unit selection and they told you,
no, I just got through the application with them. Never actually got to go to selection. They're just like, hey, go to this other selection for the 21st.
And that's a very common thing that even Rangers hear all the time, and they'll even hear it after selection. I had a buddy that went through and smoked Delta selection, but he was 22 years old. And they said to him at the end of it, they're like, you crushed it physically and you're a good Ranger. And we're not saying anything negative about you. We just want you to get a couple more years of experience, a couple more years, come back a little more mature, you know? So that's a very common thing because they're not looking, I mean, they have high standards to hold and they want to make sure that you have a certain level of maturity, not just a certain level of physical fitness.
Yeah. And I mean, I appreciate that actually, right? Because that's what you want. And you don't want guys essentially like me going through with limited experience and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a recommendation from a dude who was in the unit that I had actually met in ALC. It's like advanced leader course. Not sure if that's what it was called for you. Maybe PLDC.
PLDC when I went through.
Yeah.
Primary Leadership Development course.
Yeah. EOD's got a pretty cool one because it's like EOD specific. So you do like EOD training. It's not like big army, really. It's pretty cool.
Dude, PLDC was one of the biggest eye openers for me because up until PLDC, everything that I did was geared towards people that want to be part of something harder. Even airborne school, right? If you're jumping out of planes, and airborne school's easy. I'm not giving airborne school much credit.
Dumb stuff.
But at the same time, the people that are there volunteering to jump out of planes, again, cut from a little bit of a different cloth, right?
Yeah. They're accepting that little bit extra inherent danger.
Yeah. And then you have any type of selection or even infantry, right? When you sign up for the infantry, you're going to Fort Benning and you're going to go through boot camp with everybody else that's infantry.
Yeah.
So you start to get an idea of kind of what the military vibe feels like, or what being around soldiers is like. Then you go to the regiment, and that's even amplified. And then like you go to Ranger School, and it's even amplified more. And it's everybody you're around is like trying to get after it. Then you go to PLDC, and it's the first time. PLDC was the first time I'd been around females, other than airborne school. But like, you're out in the field. You're actually doing patrol base operations with girls, and you realize like, oh, dude, the regular Army is an absolute shit show. Yeah. And that's not a jab at females. That's a jab at just regular Army.
They're just soft people.
Yeah, soft people. And I remember each student was in charge of running PT one day, right? Because you're becoming a leader, right? And so on my PT day, I was like, all right, everybody, PMAS run. And I was like, all right, hilarious. yeah, bring your PMAS down to formation. And one of the cadre pulled me aside. It's like, bro, this isn't Ranger Regiment. You can't do that shit here. Damn. So what do you mean you can't do that shit? Yeah, there's no fucking...
That'd be the only time they'd ever do that too.
Yeah, they're like, tell them to fucking go ground their PMAS. We're not doing that shit here.
That's too bad. I was hoping to hear some throw up stories.
Yeah, no, they shut that shit down. But in PLDC, we went on it was like a 2,000 yard road march. That's not even, yes, like 2-click movement.
Okay.
On a road too. It wasn't like patrolling through woods. It was getting to where our patrol base site was. People were falling out in less than a kilometer, and it was a snail's pace. And it was just shocking to me. And then I ended up going warrant. And when I went through the warrant officer course, same thing, man. Just a lot of people that it's like, man, this doesn't feel like the military to me, you know? But that's because it's very different.
Well, you want to be around warriors.
Yeah.
And that warrior mentality is not throughout the whole military.
No, it's fucking severely lacking in most units, especially in these days. Like the Navy. Yeah. Like, dude, it doesn't even feel like a branch of the military anymore, you know?
No, you see a lot of these memos coming out for Air Force. I mean, across the board, really, all branches. But yeah, you definitely see it in the softer branches.
Did you see the Navy's like gender inclusive training that they were pushing out? And it's gender like inclusive. My pronouns are this. This is his pronouns. And it's like, oh fuck, they even got the military. Mm-hmm. You know?
It's just woke all around.
I think we got in and out at a good time. You know?
I agree. Everything I watch now, you see all this drone warfare is like the modern age now, and I'm just like so glad we don't have to deal with that. Yeah. Like imagine if we just had drone munitions just dropping on our heads at all times. Like that would fucking suck.
Yeah, that would, man.
That would suck really bad.
I think I talk to people, hit me up all the time saying like, dude, I want to go do this, or I want to be a SEAL, or I want to be a Ranger. And it's like, you go do what you want to do, right? But the people that are closest to me, I tell them straight up, I would sit out right now. Mm-hmm. You know, I would sit out right now. I would see what the political climate and the culture kind of changes or shifts to, and if it doesn't shift to something better, I'm out, dude.
Yeah, it's not worth it. You're not going to go. Shouldn't go be a pawn. Very honorable serving your country, but going to just be a pawn for literal politicians for whatever fucking bullshit they're doing right now.
Yep, and that's what's happening.
It's sad. And it's not worth it though. It's like your life is more valuable than that.
And bro, I was in Vegas all weekend, and I worked at the ADCC Grappling Championships, and I hung out at the BioPro booth for the weekend. They gave me an all expense paid trip to go down there. Oh, yeah. And the first thing I told them, I said, when they asked me to do that, I said, I'm not a fucking salesman. Okay. So don't expect people to come up to the booth and be like, hey guys, check it out. I think this would be a great option for like, I said, but I am a jiu-jitsu guy, and it's the jiu-jitsu community, and I'll give people my honest feedback if they want to know the truth of what I think of your product. And like, that's all we want. Right. So they sent me down there, and I had a lot of people come up to me that were like fans of the podcast and just talk to me and shoot the shit. And one guy has been in the military for like 22 years, and he's a commander of his fucking unit. A commander. And he's like, fuck, dude, like all this Ukraine bullshit. They're getting us spun up, and they're telling us that there might be deployments on the horizon and shit. I said, dude, what's the culture like right now in the Army? How do people feel? He goes, bro, everybody underneath my command feels like this is all bullshit and we don't want to be part of it.
Yeah. It's right across the board.
Whoa. Because, dude, very rarely do you hear a fucking commander say something like that, you know? And I mean, he gave me his name, and like, I'm obviously not going to say it on the air, but like, he wasn't ashamed or intimidated to be like, hey, this is me. I'm a commander of this unit, and this is what I think of Ukraine. And I was kind of like, that was an eye opener for me, because it's like, I'm pretty detached from the military now. And most of the people that, like, you know, when you get out, you got all your homies that stay in, and you got a certain amount of like connectivity to it still. Yeah. It's pretty much, I'm pretty much completely disconnected from the military now. All of my friends that stayed in are pretty much getting to that age where they're out too now. So I don't have much of a gauge on the temperature. And I talked to several people about this over the weekend. Man, none of the people that I've talked to are down with what's happening. They're like, we don't want to go to fucking Ukraine. We don't give a shit about Ukraine. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, it's cool. It's cool to see people starting to wake up. But these people need to start fucking being vocal, and they need to, and they need
standing up about it.
Talking to me about it at a booth is one thing, but fuck, dude, think if you were a commander and you went public with that and said, none of my troops want to be part of this anymore. And dude, do you remember when, fuck, I don't remember what year it was, but Obama started talking about invading Syria. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
And bro, the temperature of the American citizen was like, dude, everybody was like, we're not ready for another fucking war.
Oh yeah.
On the right and the left. Everybody was like, we're over this fucking bullshit.
Enough.
And he changed his tune. And so that's proof right there that if the American people will stand up and say what they believe to be true, bro, we have influence over these people. To a certain, if enough people stand for something, they have to fucking listen to us.
Absolutely. Every time. And that's the craziest thing is, I mean, we have so much power as a people. It's like remember the movie Ants? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's all about like the ants versus grasshoppers and everything. It's the exact same thing. Like, not to be a weirdo about that, but it's literally like if we just stand up in unison. A lot of those kids movies
have great analogies and great stories and like comparisons, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's too bad more people aren't more vocal. You know, it's really a shame. That's what we need really, is just everyone to kind of stand up in unison, because everyone thinks like, oh, the silent majority, this and that. Like, that's all bullshit anyway.
Yeah,
like, that's literally just a term to control.
Andy Frisella always, anytime he hears that term, he's like, fuck the silent majority. That's the stupidest thing ever. Yeah. And I love his perspective, because that's the truth, right? If you feel a certain way, but you're going to stay silent on it, well, you might as well be on the other side pushing the agenda. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not helping anybody.
And, and if people will start to stand up and just explain kind of how they feel about stuff, I think everybody would come to terms with, dude, we're a lot more aligned than most people think.
Yeah, the majority of us are actually in the middle.
You know, yeah. And so,
we actually have self-interest and don't like one another.
I went to last weekend, right before I went down to Vegas. The night before, I went to a Korn and Evanescence concert.
Cool.
And an outdoor amphitheater, and it was fucking rad, right? And Amy Lee, the singer of Evanescence, who, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful female vocalists to ever live. During one of their songs, they had on the screen behind them what could almost be interpreted as like kind of a BLM theme to it, right? It showed like black kids kind of being oppressed and like riot lines with police and their shields and stuff. And me and my wife were talking about it afterwards, and she's like, yeah, I wonder, the BLM feeling of that one song just kind of felt off, you know? And I said, yeah, but while I was watching that song play, I was watching her video in the background. It made me kind of think, you know what? This is her way of expressing like, I'm kind of sick of the government's overreach. I'm kind of sick of the way that the government is treating people. I'm kind of sick of the way that the government is oppressing people. And bro, I kind of had an aha moment, because it's like, man, all those people that are BLM supporters, that are turned off by the police, you know what? Everybody on our side over here, we're pretty turned off by the government too. We're pretty fucking sick of oppression too. We just are looking through it through kind of a different lens than they are. And it was like, oh fuck, dude. They might hold perspectives and stuff that I don't agree on, but what if we're a lot closer than we think?
We probably are, and they don't want us to know that.
And they don't want us to know that.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, I was in the professional law enforcement for a decade. I'm not anti-police, but the police are also the frontline representation of the U.S. government. And if these people feel like the U.S. government has been shitting on them, well, and the police are fucking there with their shields, being the front line of that and the representing, representing that, it can become very easy to come to the conclusion, well, fuck them, you know?
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, fuck man, we need to figure out a way to get everybody on board, and not necessarily fuck the police, but like, we're all fed up with the fucking government together. And just because you grew up in the ghetto and I grew up in a farm town, the color of our skin is different. You know what? We could probably become aligned, and they don't fucking want us to do that.
No, not at all, because that literally removes the power from them.
Yeah.
Right? They need the division. They need the turmoil. They need the chaos for them to stay in control, because then that gives them the opportunity to come in and say, we're the heroes. We're going to fix the problem. Even though they're the ones creating the problem.
Bro, how many more fucking election cycles can come around where we're promised all this shit and then they never deliver on it? Ever.
It just blows my mind. I mean, I'm still pretty young, and it's been the writing on the wall is like every time they say something, it's a lie.
Literally.
And then they just repeat it again every 2 years. You're like, what the fuck? How is nobody else seeing this shit? Like, it's so obvious what they do. They pander, and then they fuck those same people over.
And bro, and I've talked about this on the show before too, but like, I was a deputy, and I worked in Compton, and I worked in South Central, like the hoods of LA, right? Do you know what fucking $100 billion could do interjected into American cities? The hood of hoods. Like, all those kids are fucking slinging dope and pimping hoes, and they're caught up in the criminal lifestyle. And instead of just fucking sending them to fucking jail like we do, how about we fucking build some trade schools?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How give these kids an option. Hey, we'll teach you a skill on the dime of the U.S. government, because we know we're going to get more out of it on the back end. On one hand, not only are we going to get you off the bad path, but we're going to set you on a productive path where you become a fucking homeowner and a taxpayer. Like, everybody fucking wins, but they don't want to do that. They like keeping people in turmoil. And so it's like, man, they promise all of this shit to, especially like minority communities. The government hates minority communities.
Well, they hate all of us. but they use them to perpetuate their problems. You know, like it's intentional, obviously, right? Because like you said, send them to trade schools. And I mean, whatever. If they do something really bad, you go to prison and do some trade school stuff there, right? Like, come out as a productive member of society. You serve your time. And then you've also got something to actually go into differently, right? Yeah.
Instead, we send them to the prison systems where they're just more ingrained in the criminal lifestyle, you know? Now, it's weird because...
dehumanized, treated like shit there just to get out and be pissed off and kind of fall right back in the same flow of things.
100%, dude. And people need to realize that obviously you go to jail for different reasons. One is deterrence, right? Other people see you going to jail and they say, oh, that guy robbed a bank and now he's in jail for 15 years. I don't want to do that. But the other side of what prison should be is rehabilitation. So when they get out, they personally don't want to be part of that lifestyle anymore. And bro, if you do your time and you get out, you should be fucking celebrated. Like you should be like, yes, like let's it's now this person's time to reintegrate into society and show us that they've done their time, they served their time, and now we're going to integrate them back into society. But you can't get a fucking job with a lot of places if you have a felony on your record or whatever it may be, you know? So the whole system's kind of set up to like, dude, once you're fucked, It's easy to stay fucked.
Oh yeah.
It's harder to break that cycle and fucking come out on the other side and become a productive member of society. That's what we're fucking looking for, you know? But it just goes to show you exactly what we're talking about. They don't want them to come out and be better people. They want them to come out and continuously be broken.
Yeah, to fall right back in the cycle.
Yeah.
To have no opportunity to get out. And then realize like, well, if I go back in, a lot of them, they'll literally just turn back around and go back to the system because it's an easier life. It's actually a schedule. Like that's actual comfort for them.
Oh, I know.
Because when you're living on the streets, it's like way harder. Right?
Dude, did you see the clips from the interview with the president over the last, probably, I think,
60-minute one?
Yeah, the 60-minute one.
Disgusting.
Right, dude, he's like, yeah, dude, he's like, I forget who the interviewer's name was, but he says to Biden, he's like, there's some concern that you I don't remember how he articulated, but like you don't have
it's
the
impossible to try and relate to the way he talks and thinks.
Yeah, you don't have people are concerned that you might not have the cognitive ability to be president anymore or whatever. You know, he's like, oh, I feel young. Like I feel as young as a fly.
Like, yeah. The mental gymnastics to understand him is exhausting.
But dude, how is this our reality? Like that's the fucking leader of the free world. He can't even string a sentence together. And dude, I see these things and it's like, you had to have seen the thing going around of that teacher who wears a giant set of plastic tits to school. And if you guys haven't seen this, Google this.
Doing wood shop.
A wood shop teacher in Canada wears a giant set of prosthetic tits to class. And bro, these
with
tits,
fake nipples too that are just protruding through the shirt.
And dude,
and a skirt.
These tits are the size of like giant watermelons.
Like beach volleyballs.
Yeah.
They're fucking huge. Like literally down to the belly button.
It's like, I posted this morning. I said, I think the only thing that's going to save us is a giant meteor, you know?
Yeah. It's just fucking clown world.
Like, dude, how is this even real? And so, I mean, I talk about on the podcast every week. We look at all the crazy shit and we talk about the crazy shit. But personally, we got to figure out how to be the best versions. We got to fucking make life happen and we got to win, you know?
Yeah.
And, last week I went and like meditated by my river and I made a little post about it, you know? And then some guys like, leave it to the internet. I make a post about meditating on my river. He's like, oh, you want to act like, you giving people like advice to find peace, but you're always focused on the past and you're always bitching and you're always complaining on your podcast. I think you're really confused and all this shit. And it's like, see, bro, you can't even make a post about fucking meditating.
No, people are going to hate.
And it's like, dude, first of all, I say it all the time. I'm not your fucking guru. I'm not telling you how to live your life. If you're listening to this show to figure out how to live your life, turn it off and go listen to Tony Robbins. I'm just a man that's walking a path that I think is the best path for me. Is it? I don't fucking know. Time will tell. I'm trying to figure it out as I go though. You know, and I don't have the fucking arrogance to say my path is the right path. I hope that it is, but we'll see, right? Like fucking that's life, dude. And the point of that post was like sometimes try and be present and live in the now. If you get caught up in the past, that leads to depressive thoughts. And if you get caught up in the future, that leads to anxious thoughts. And sometimes just detach and enjoy the moment. And he's like, you're talking about enjoying the moment, but you bitch about stuff all the time. And it's like, dude, there's no black and white. Like you have to look at your past and you have to look at those experiences and understand what served you and what didn't. And the things that didn't serve you, you should bring them to light. You should talk about them because that might prevent someone else from going through that, right? You also have to think about your future to a certain extent. Like I'm building a new gym now. There's a million things that I have to anticipate that are coming down the pipe over the next couple months. Those living in the past and living in the future and then enjoying the moment, those three things aren't mutually exclusive. You just have to balance it, you know?
Yeah. It's a balance really, right? You have to actually pay attention to the past and never forget the past because those are your lessons.
Exactly.
That's where you learn from And that's how you kind of decide what you're going to do now and then plan for the future.
Yep.
Is through those lessons. And if you forget them, you're going to repeat the mistakes. It's that easy.
And it's like, leave it to Instagram. And bro,
yeah.
I wanted to respond so bad. But I've made a rule for myself that I don't respond to people that are being negative, period. I just don't do it anymore because...
Well, they're, what do you call them? Like suckles, essentially,
yeah.
right? Like they just fucking suck the life out of you. Like they're just negative energy. Like why feed it into it?
And here's the thing, man. Like if I thought I could have a discussion with someone and either side could learn something, like if I went to that person and said, hey, why would you say something negative about me? And we could have some back and forth, and then maybe I could learn a new perspective or he could learn a new perspective. That's one thing. I just don't think the internet's the place for that. Have you like people?
Most people are too, stuck on their own minds. They're too stubborn. They're too, their egos are too big.
Exactly.
And too weak, really, to even accept another viewpoint.
And it's too easy to be aggressive to someone on Instagram. And if you're being aggressive over a social media platform, you're not of a growth mindset.
No,
you're not looking to become better.
You're kind of already lost.
You're already lost. So you're not my fucking problem, and you're not getting my time or energy. If you're a member of my jiu-jitsu academy, or you're someone that like is part of my real life, or if you want, and I get people that write me all the time, and a lot of times I don't even have the time I don't have the time to interact with people that do write me nice things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the internet can be used for that, but it's bizarre that there's still a lot of people out there that haven't figured out how to make the internet work for them. If you don't like somebody's page or somebody's message, unfollow and then follow people that do serve you. It's
pretty logical, right?
Yeah.
Like if you follow a bunch of shit that makes you angry, like that's just bringing negativity in your life, and then you're willingly going to those social media platforms to look at that. Like you're self-destructive.
No. And even like, I'm trying to come to a place in my life where I always say on this show, stay informed, but not consumed, right? We have to know about the crazy shit that's going on, but you can't let it attack your fucking soul, because now you're letting them win. And it's just like that dude with his big fucking plastic fake tits, right? I have to look at that and just shake my head and almost laugh. But instead of getting frustrated about everything, man, what can we do to be better? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, I can make my community better by teaching people jiu-jitsu and teaching people how to be good human beings. And then my little microcosm can become stronger. And if you do that, we're in your community, and a bunch of people listening are doing that in their community, that's where we win.
Yeah.
You
got to get your house in order first.
100%, bro.
Yeah, we can't worry about what's happening in Ontario. Like we can look at it, we can acknowledge it, we can realize that it's absolute fucking shit show over there.
Yeah.
But it's honestly their problem.
And it's also kind of something that just is like as grotesque as it is. And it's,
well, we're the parents. We're these kids' parents.
That's what I'm saying.
Like that's their responsibility to be up in arms.
Yeah. Dude, can you imagine if you did that as a little kid in school?
If I wore some tits?
Like if a student showed up looking like that?
Oh, God.
You'd be in the principal's office, 100%,
you'd be
dude.
Kicked out of school and probably sent to go see like mental health.
Yeah.
Because that person's fucking crazy.
So we got a couple more things to talk about. One is the fact that you got out of the military and became a pilot.
Yeah.
Because that's a cool phase of life. And then, as with every single episode, we got to touch on jiu-jitsu too.
Fuck yeah.
What led you down the path? Because that's your main like professional career now, correct?
Yeah. So kind of led off on winter selection. That was, I think, the last military piece we trolled off from a while back.
It's fun though.
Yes, I actually got hired with that unit, and I had started skydiving actually that year. So it's kind of like going back and forth. So I started skydiving. I was on jump 75. This is post-selection. Kind of got orders, getting ready to go do that thing. And I thought for Delta, I'm going to go ahead and get skydive certified, and I'll have that out of the way. And skydiving is fucking fun. So last jump of the season, it's actually ironically Veterans Day, and I think it was in 2014. And I just do it like hop and pop, like out of 3,000 feet, open up, do a little spiral in. Somebody cuts across my path, and I hook a left 360 without looking at my altimeter. Lo and behold, I'm about 250 feet off the ground. and I do a toggle 360 instead of like using my fronts and getting the turnaround a little bit faster. If Andy Stump ever hears this, he'd probably be laughing right now because he knows what's about to happen.
I mean, I have like 35 jumps, but you're still speaking Chinese to me.
Yeah.
Because mine were all under a T10 Charlie.
Statics, yeah. Yeah, you fell to the earth and I flew.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, anyway, I fucking, I'm in like about 270 degrees of this turn and I see the ground rushing at me incredibly fast. And I try playing out, it doesn't work out. I end up shattering my femur into 20 pieces, breaking my ankle, tumbling over my parachute, and almost broke my neck. I had a GoPro on my head, and it actually, as I was tumbling, the GoPro got ripped off the top of my head. So I was literally like inches from shattering my neck into like, a million pieces. So shattered my femur. I thought it was just dislocated. I'm telling everybody else, like, hey, go and press that back in. Let's get back on another jump for the rest of the day. And they're like, don't fucking move. Your leg is literally facing the other direction. So yeah, it like fully shattered, retracted up into my hip, and was like turned the other direction. So I got air medic'd out of there. They had to put traction on it using an old Vietnam traction device, which is actually the worst pain of the whole injury.
Oh, I have no doubt, dude.
Yeah, so you got literally like two open end bones just grinding on each other, and then the open nerve endings just like touching each other once it's like actually extended out. Pretty fucking horrible. Got a cool selfie of it though.
Did you get the video from the GoPro getting broken?
Up until the impact point, because it actually, when it hit the ground, it like turned it off and everything just from the impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got the whole spiral down right before I actually like smashed the ground kind of thing.
That's gnarly.
I've got like a video from somebody else looking down, watching me spiral and then flip over my parachute, and they're just like, oh fuck. So got to go to the hospital with the helicopter. Went under surgery. They ended up hammering a titanium rod through my femur, put a couple bolts and screws in there. It's still in there now, and it's actually pretty strong. Still have some like residual pain for that, but that essentially set off a path in my military career that immediately ended on Veterans Day.
Yeah.
So they were like, hey, you'll be lucky to walk again, never run. I said, fuck that. I'm going to go hard in physical therapy. So I went to physical therapy for a couple months and went to the gym every day after physical therapy. So it was just kind of like a 2-a-day kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was up and walking again, within like a month with crutches. I was wheelchair bound for a little bit.
That was, that jump was not related to military training or
no,
what?
It was a civilian jump.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I was just training to kind of have it out of the way, and it was fun.
Does that affect your disability?
It's included.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because it's still under surface.
You're still under active duty at the
It's just
time.
like broken fingers and shit from fighting. Those all end up getting wrapped into disability.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
if there's any silver lining,
it was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole experience actually, I think, has been a silver lining. So, that happened, Veterans Day, November. I'm on con leave, and I am extremely hooked on oxycodone.
Fuck.
Because of military, right? So they're just pumping you. I had Dilaudid, I had oxycodone, like literally everything you could think of for pain meds. They were just throwing it at me. I had a grocery bag of this shit. And, I thought I needed it for the pain and everything. And then eventually you build up, tolerances and you take more and more and more. And I was like, I'm fucking sick to my stomach. I have to take all these other meds for all the extra shit. So totally a statistic of the military and their drug problem. So I'm like, hey, I gotta fucking cold turkey this shit, right? And this is a bad decision comes next, but it's also that silver lining, lessons learned kind of thing. I'm like, fucking cold turkey, right? Getting the shakes, getting the shits, getting the headaches, just sick to my stomach.
How long did that? Was that period? Like,
I was like 2 months in already.
No, I'm saying once you decide to go cold turkey. How long is that process of trying to get that shit out of your body?
I was probably a week into it.
Okay.
Not sleeping, sick, and I'm like, I gotta do something. I couldn't eat food. So I'm on con leave. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna smoke some weed. Yeah. Thought it was totally cool, like one time, actually ate some food, got a good night's sleep. Next day I get a call to come into work. Yeah. So I'm living with at this time I was separated from my ex-wife. And so I'm living with a couple other EOD dudes. Get a call to come into work. My brother's actually out there kind of driving me around because I couldn't get around. They call me in and they're like, hey, we had somebody anonymously say that you've been using some drugs. So you're going to do a UA.
Oh my God, dude. Like, they're giving you fucking narcotics.
Massive amounts.
That are getting you, I mean, not getting you, you're already addicted. Mm-hmm. If you're going through withdrawals and you want to try and supplement that with a plant that grows out of the earth, and you're the bad guy now.
On con leave too. So there was like zero danger to anybody. Like I wasn't going to be back at work for a couple months because I was just on medical leave trying to do recovery.
Man, the military needs to get with the fucking times, dude.
Yeah. So smoked once that prior night. Go do a piss test, run to a CVS real quick. Like fuck, right? Am I hot?
Some golden seal?
No, I didn't know what I was getting called in for. They didn't tell me. They didn't give me a heads up. Total buddy fuckers, really. Because if maybe my squad leader or a platoon sergeant could have been like, "Hey, bro, this is coming down. Like, make sure you're good."
Who ratted you out? Do you know?
Fucking roommate, another EOD guy.
Whoa.
Who was fucking just a mad hater, super obviously jealous of like my progression in the military. Like just a total fucking snitch bitch, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, hey, I made a bad decision. Totally get it. Own it. It's a black mark, but also kind of like the catalyst to like a fucking way better life.
Yep.
So, hindsight kind of thing, but whatever. So I do that piss test, go pee in a cup at CVS. It says I'm clean. I'm like, fuck yeah. Go home on medical leave to go see family for like the holidays. Get a call to come back in. They say, hey, you're fucking dirty. And I'm like, what? Come to find out, just so everyone knows, if they're listening, they're still in the service, every other federal entity tests at 50 nanograms per milliliter.
Uh-huh.
The Army tested 15.
Okay.
I was like 35. Like fucking negligible in all honesty, but enough for testing.
Got it.
So that kind of set off, instead of just like getting a medical discharge, I'm essentially looking at just an honorable discharge. They gave me an option. They're like, hey, you could easily fight this. I had a lawyer and everything. And they're like, this is an easy fight. Like, this is bullshit numbers, whatever. And they're like, or you can take an honorable discharge, get your full benefits, get out now. Or you can fight this and then get a medical discharge like a year and a half later.
And a medical discharge will come with full retirement, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a year and a half fight.
I was pretty fucking disheartened. I couldn't walk still like literally walking around with a crutch or crutches. Like I couldn't use my legs. And cause I had actually broke my right ankle, shattered my left femur. So like I was pretty fucking up. Broken. Yeah. And then a bunch of soft tissue injuries too. So I was like, fuck it. Well, let's just do an honorable discharge and I'll start this next chapter in life. So like it was quick, man. Like a month and a half. They were like, here's your new date. These are all your dates to go, check out of here and do this kind of thing and whatever. And so, yeah, I got like an Article 15 for it and everything like that. But honorable discharge got out and had to kind of figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to do in the big world of civilian life.
How old were you at this point?
25 or 26.
Okay, so still fucking young.
Yeah. So I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah. Because 18 plus 8 plus whatever. Yeah, so like 26 and a half or something like that. But no fucking idea how to be a civilian at all. All right, all I'd ever known was the military from like, because I enlisted in the DEP program. I was like enlisted 17.
Yeah, me too.
So all I knew was military, and that was my entire adulthood.
And a lot of people think like, oh, the military teaches you life skills.
Zero.
Not really.
Not zero, but
no way to
like survive outside and like, plan for yourself or anything like that. Like they hold your hand through a lot of bullshit. Yeah. So, I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I was like, well, I broke my leg skydiving. I should probably go start skydiving again. I'm a fucking idiot, right? So that was actually my first job. I actually worked as a skydive instructor and a videographer. And I was shooting video for tandems in Myrtle Beach. Pretty fucking sweet, actually, throughout the summer.
Man, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so living on the beach, sleeping in a hammock all summer long, like wake up, go get some food, go to the hangar, get the plane prep, get the hangar prep, get our parachutes up and running. A bunch of tourism come through. We'd go shoot videos with them, have a good time. Go have some dinner and some drinks and rinse and repeat for a couple months. And I was like, well, that's no way to like live, right? Because I just got hurt doing this. It doesn't make a ton of money, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good like transition. The owner of the drop zone was a former Delta guy. And, almost all the other skydivers were like ex-military guys or current military guys too. So it's cool. But I was like, hey, I need to make money. I need to start like working in the real world. I'll go do contracting. So put my hand out into the contract world, and the first one that popped was doing some UXO workout in Cali at 29 Palms.
Okay.
That place sucks.
So I've heard.
Bad. Yeah. So I went out there and I worked for 6.5 months or so, I think 6 or 7 months. And just working 6 days a week, 60-hour weeks, 6 figures, like right off the bat, though. It was fucking great money. And I was like, hey,
going from E6 to that's legit.
Yeah. And no responsibilities, really. Yeah, and it was cool, man. I was just making money, trying to put it aside, start planning for what's next. When I was skydiving, kind of this how kind of segue into aviation happens. I was like, hey, I should probably figure out how to fly. And I was like, how do I become a pilot? I never even considered it as a career path. Never, I went to a ton of air shows and did all that kind of stuff, jumped out of planes, but I never actually thought about flying the plane. But I was like, I need to create a path where it's less dangerous, longevity is there, and it can lead to a good career with money and benefits, kind of just like the next chapter.
Yeah.
And I reached out to the VA at the time, and they're like, hey, we don't get any programs right now, like, sucks kind of thing. I was like, fuck. So
that's right. There are programs now, though, right?
There's some amazing programs, yeah.
That you can use your benefits.
I've kind of become an ambassador, we'll call it, for kind of helping people get out and using their benefits. I was just actually talking to somebody about it yesterday. But at the time, when I was doing the contract stuff, I kept reaching out to the VA and asking, hey, is this available? Is this available? I want to use my benefits. There are benefits. We earned them. You should use them. Like I tell all veterans, they should use every 100%. Ounce of their benefits because they earned them. Actually, they actually worked for them. Unlike all these other leeches in society.
And the military is counting on you not using them.
Absolutely.
By the way,
they don't even teach you about it
because statistically, the majority of people do not use them.
Yeah.
So go find something and use those resources.
Yeah, so the way to do it really is, I found they gave me a 2-week window when I was contracting. Like, hey, we got this 2-week window before it closes. You can get literally private pilot through flight instructor, paid for through the VA, and you can tack it on with a college degree. So I was like, cool, what do I got to do? They're like, hey, you got to find the school, find the flight affiliate, and move and go start. And I was like, okay, well, where do I go? They're like, hey, go through this thing. This is the kind of process. I looked it up, found a couple different schools. One is Liberty University. It's like one of the top Christian colleges in the country out of Virginia, but they've got this, they're fucking brilliant. They must have worked a drug deal with another person they knew with the VA, but essentially you go and get a degree with the college and you can do the whole college piece online, and then you can pick out of 30, maybe 40. I don't know how many flight schools they have now across the country, a ton, because they worked this drug deal out to kind of have the monopoly for it. And essentially you go to the flight school, it's paid for through the government. The Liberty University is a yellow ribbon program, so the VA is capped at I don't know, $24,000 or whatever it is a year. Yellow ribbon, the agreement is essentially the school will cover half the remaining balance and the VA will cover the other half. So I got about $130,000 paid for. So thank you, taxpayers. Essentially, through the VA yellow ribbon program in 2 years, a little over 2 years, and I got a 4-year degree and all my flight school paid for from private pilot, instrument, multi-engine, single engine, commercial, flight instructor, and multi-engine flight instructor.
Fucking rad, dude.
Yeah.
And I always say this, for guys that have walked paths and figured out methods to help the system, I don't even want to say use the system, because you, like you said, you earn that, right? But I'll put your contact info in the show notes below. Yeah.
Tell anybody to reach out.
Someone somewhere is listening to this saying, fuck, dude, that sounds like a good idea, And so if you're comfortable with people reaching out to you.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Yeah. Like I said, I've tried to become an advocate for it and try and show people kind of the path to do it and what's out there, because everyone thinks pilot, they think airlines. Yeah. That's all they fucking know. The aviation world is huge. There's civil service jobs, there's medical jobs, there's ISR jobs, there's executive type levels, working private people, and then there's the airline jobs too. If people just want to go fly big metal, have 150 people on your plane, rinse and repeat, 4-day trips kind of thing until they're 65 and die, go do it. Obviously, that's not what I want to do. Yeah, I
mean, you're not saying anything negative about that.
No.
Other than it's kind of saying something negative about that.
It's mundane as fuck.
Yeah, of course.
And I want more from life, essentially. There's cool perks that come with that, like job security and sometimes, unless COVID happens again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
then they all turn their backs on you.
Yeah, they shit all over everybody. But right now, aviation is desperately in need for pilots. We have like massive shortages, especially after all the COVID firings and early retirements and shit that happened then. Like perfect storm for a disaster, essentially. And perpetuating, really.
Yeah.
They did it themselves. But yeah, I didn't go that route. So I wanted to still be a pilot when I got out of flight school. So first thing I did, I had to get your hours up because it's all based on hours. That's kind of like your experience level in aviation is what your type of hours are. So I worked as a flight instructor, a couple of different jobs. I did this like puppy pilot thing where I transported pilots or puppies from like kill shelters to non-kill shelters, and they'd adopt them out.
Oh, that's cool.
That was pretty cool. Did that for a little bit. Did some ferrying type jobs where I just like picked up pieces of ship planes, flew them across the country and dropped them off.
So just building your resume, really.
Exactly. I was just, developing my resume, kind of getting a diverse experience, exploring what's out there. I didn't want to like lock into one path and just go on and just kind of never realize what else is out there. Kind of missed a few key points in life, but essentially I've got, at this point, a son with my ex-wife, and I'm divorced now, and seeing my now wife, Brittany, that we had met in Arizona when I was going through flight training. That's where I actually did all the school in there.
Okay.
So I am now in Atlanta because we moved to Atlanta because of Georgia Aquarium. My wife was a marine mammal trainer, so she trained dolphins and did the shows and education programs out there. So I was working as a flight instructor there as well in Atlanta, and having a great time. It's really cool to kind of pass on the knowledge. And one of the things I noticed when I first got out of flight school was like I didn't know shit. So I learned pretty early in life, probably when I was going through EAD school, like the best way for me to learn is actually to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of found a passion from teaching, and it just like hones in all the skills. And aviation's cool because it really reinforces everything you just did when you're teaching. Mm-hmm. Like you just got through school, and now you go and you turn around, you teach the exact same, methodology and like procedures and everything like that. And you're like, holy shit, this actually makes sense and it works.
And so it also like, for me, it reaffirms that you actually know it.
Absolutely.
Taking a test is one thing, right?
Yeah. It's not just rote memorization.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can actually go and put it into practice and like apply it. Yeah. So that was super rewarding. Had some awesome students. Also had some super retard students. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like every day you go to school as a flight instructor and you're literally saving your life and saving your student's life every fucking day. Which,
that's crazy, dude.
It's fun, but also you get exhausted and you get paid dog shit too. Uh-huh. But aviation is kind of how it goes. You got these low time jobs. You might make like 30 grand in your first year, work your first year, get your first up to about 1,000 hours total, and work into your second job. And that's going to double your pay almost like right away.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's like anything in life. You got to put the time in.
You got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get to just go straight to the top. So, again, I wanted to do some sort of aviation job that was still flying. So I was like, what is a cool job out there where I still fly? It's not flying people and airlines and stuff like that. I was like, let's fucking do cargo. So I started looking at all the different cargo things. I made this like note in my phone. It's huge. I pretty much went through every single airline, every single type of flying company that I could find. And I like categorized them like low time, middle time, and kind of like high time pilot jobs. What the requirements were, what I qualified for, what I had to do to get there. Mm-hmm. And cargo kept coming out because it falls under like a FAR, like 135 rule set. It's just a type of rule for aviation, but at different hour requirements essentially compared to like 121, which is airline type stuff, or like Part 91. It's different. The rules and time requirements are different.
I see. Isn't it just because cargo is you need a higher level of...
There's 121 cargo too, but essentially it's just like different classifications, different kind of like levels through your aviation career.
Okay.
And I found this company called Key Lime Air, actually out of Denver, Colorado, and they flew this plane called a Metroliner. No fucking idea what it was, so I started looking it up. And what the resounding theme kept coming around is like, hey, if you can survive flying this plane, you can fly anything. And I was like,
you're like, that's for me.
That's fucking what I want to do, right? Like all or none mentality.
I'm seeing a theme over your life choices.
Yeah. So,
I want the wildest shit possible.
Yeah. Like I want to experience life, and I want to challenge myself and not have it easy and have autopilot for everything. And that's exactly what this was. This is flying one of the biggest twin engines that you can fly single pilot, no autopilot. half of them didn't have GPSs or like any advanced avionics. They looked like old World War II planes essentially.
Dang.
But like big powerhouse, multi-engine turboprops carry 3,000 pounds kind of worth of shit in the back. And it was fucking cool, man. Worked as a first officer for 5 months or so, got promoted to captain. So then it was all me by myself on the plane, flying that. Did that for 2 years. And
then you're just transporting cargo around
it was pretty much
Colorado for the most part?
Which is fucking the most beautiful place in the world to fly.
Oh, I bet.
All the mountains and stuff, all to the west, of course. To the east, it's like, Kansas, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I flew to Kansas. Let's see, where else? Wyoming, all over Colorado, and a couple other like random states if you just kind of like had contract, flights to go out there.
Okay.
But,
what was
cool
the op tempo like?
It was fucking exhausting, man. But it was, they'd remind me back to being like a contractor.
Yeah.
6-day weeks. And, I'd show up to work at 6 a.m. I lived like an hour away, so I was driving an hour to work.
Did the family move out there with you too? Or
yeah.
Okay.
We moved everybody out there. Yeah. Got a apartment when we first moved into Aurora, commonly known as Aurora Stan. Fucking ghetto as fuck. But the apartment complex looked cool, but like Aurora is pretty rough, man. But that's all I could afford. I was an FO then, so I was only making like 30-something thousand starting, but I knew I was going to get promoted pretty soon.
Yeah.
I got promoted to captain, and then we started looking for a house, and then COVID happened.
Okay.
Right. So here comes the COVID stories, right? So, everyone else is shutting down in the world, but non-essential. Well, cargo's pretty fucking essential. Not to mention, like, one of our biggest exporters was Amazon boxes and shit, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what everyone's doing while they're sitting at home?
Yeah, exactly.
Off,
buying
right?
shit.
Just buying shit online. So our like workload like magnified, just like it was like Christmas, and then it just like never ended, kind of thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
again,
super busy. So while the
silver
roads
linings,
were empty,
right?
Yeah, it was great for work. I mean, definitely guaranteed work. Like demand was high. So we'd fly out, in the morning, go drop off your cargo, maybe come back. I was kind of like, starting to get senior at that time on the cargo line. And then I'd go do shit during the day. I was like back at home, but it was like an hour drive back home to kind of do stuff. So I'd go to the gym, kind of do whatever I had to do, hobbies around the house. And then go do a PM run too. So I had to show back up about 5 or 6 at night, go grab the cargo somewhere else, like fly out, pick it up, bring it back home, and get home probably around 9 o'clock, rinse and repeat. So it was like getting home around 9:30, leaving the house by 5 a.m., doing that 6 days a week. It'd burn you out, but making good money.
Yeah.
And then as COVID was happening, I was like, hey, I'm not playing these games, for one. And they're like, hey, mask mandates. And UPS is super woke, like as a whole organization. And it was like during the political changeover, we're having like fucking all the election stuff start happening.
Yeah.
And UPS obviously was like siding hard with the left. And they started pushing like these mask mandates. So I was like, fuck you, VA. Like, hey, give me a letter that gives me an exemption from masks. Cool. Now I've got a federal mask exemption. Give it to them. They're like, hey, cool, got it. Check it. I guess at this point is when Biden's getting ready to take office now.
Are they telling you have to have a mask on while you're flying your plane?
No, I have to have a mask on their premise, walking around. And literally I just go to a parking lot. I walk through a warehouse where they're like sorting all the cargo. And then I walk out into the airstrip, an open air area where the planes are.
Yeah. And
then hang out by my plane until we get it loaded full of boxes and I fly away. But they're like, hey, when you're on our premise, you have to have a mask on pretty much until you get in the plane. And I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this. Like,
I knew we were going to be friends. Dude.
Yeah. And I was fucking stuck to it, and the whole time. And then towards the end of the time with them, they say, hey, we don't care that you have a federal mask exemption.
Yeah, of course they don't.
If you walk through our building and don't have a mask on, we are going to ban you from this or if you won't be allowed to come on the premise anymore. And I said, fuck you. Like, yeah, okay. I will sue you, kind of thing. And sure enough, they're like, hey, your ID card is banned. You're not allowed on the premise anymore. And they told my employers that, and they said, we don't know what to do with you now. Like, they pay our bills. And I'm just like, you fucking cowards. You know, like, you fucking cowards.
It showed a lot of people's true colors.
Yeah. Again, silver linings.
So exactly.
Dude, I've had a series of like unfortunate but fortunate events throughout my entire life. It seems like, from like breaking legs to just standing up on my morals against this tyranny bullshit. And So anyway, my company's like, hey, we got to talk. Like, we can't keep you because you can't fly and that's your job. And I was just like, okay, well, I started lawyering up, and Colorado's so fucking liberal. They're like, hey, not a single judge will hear a case anything to do with COVID right now because they're directed essentially by the government to not hear anything about it. So I was like literally stonewalled. I can't do anything about that now. Okay, what am I going to do? Start putting my hat out looking for other jobs. Really cool job popped up. Kind of crazy. Facebook and aviation are like the best places to find jobs.
Okay.
Which is crazy. There's a couple private groups on there that you can sign up for, and they've got thousands of pilots, and that's kind of like where the recruiting really happens. So I found this job flying closer to home, flying for wildland firefighters. Pretty cool job. So we actually fly around a PC-12 with it's like an ISR platform, like literally like carbon copy of like what we're flying in like the Middle East and shit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a big like drone ball that comes out the tail section, and it's thermal in color. And we'd fly around, and we go do like fire detection whenever there's like lightning strikes. We can get like giant maps that kind of show us exactly where these strikes are. We'll fly to like known fires and map it out, and then send all the data live feed down to the guys on the ground so that they know like what to do and how the fire's behaving and stuff like that.
That sounds cool.
It was fucking cool, man. And like everyone, all the other pilots there, they're all like former military guys. And it was a really cool job too. And as it was happening, I was probably there for 7 months or so. And then the jab mandate started coming down.
Jesus, dude. Does it ever fucking end?
It doesn't. And again, I'm like, fuck you. No. Right? And
so to fly around and detect fires.
Because it's wildland firefighter is a state entity, government. Again, they can put whatever mandates, air quotes, on fucking whatever they want, right? And they're just like, hey, you guys got to start getting the jab or else. Like, and I said, fuck you, no.
Yeah.
You know?
It goes back to what we said at the very beginning of the podcast is like, you go through enough hard shit as a young man, like you don't have the capacity to intimidate me or bully me. And like, I just wish more people had that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's that no quit mentality, but that's a slippery slope, right? When you give in, give an inch, give an inch, give an inch, you've given a mile. And you are just now a submissive little bitch that'll just say yes to whatever as long as you just keep going on about your way.
Yeah.
You know, like just to make your life a little bit more comfortable, you're willing to just to give in.
And where does it end?
It doesn't.
You know what I mean?
You know, like, until you're a fucking slave.
Yeah. Fucking wage slave.
Yeah. Literally. So I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And that's kind of happening. And I was like, okay, cool. Looking for another job.
Yep.
Facebook comes around again, man. This dude puts out that they're looking for a pilot to fly kind of this is what we call a unicorn job in aviation. One plane owned by two families, awesome people. And they're like, hey, we just need one pilot. You work for us kind of thing.
Got it.
And I like reached out. Actually, one of my good buddies saw it, sent it to me because he knew I was in like a bad spot. And he's like, hey man, contact them or else I hate you kind of thing. Like I was like, okay, cool. I'll twist my arm, right?
Yeah.
I'll check them out. Like, and I just like got on the computer, sent an email like, hey, this is me. This is what I believe in. I've got tattoos. I've got a beard. I'm former military.
I'm
like
unvaccinated.
Yeah, I am unvaccinated and proud of it. You know?
Yeah.
And if this is the kind of person you're looking for, like I've been doing this type of work, all single pilot stuff. That's what you need. Like I've been flying in the Colorado mountains this whole time, so it's kind of like considered like flying in mountainous terrain. It's like a more dangerous concept, I guess, for people who don't know how to fly.
Yeah.
But
is that because of like all the different drafts?
Yeah, it's all the winds and stuff like
air
that,
temperatures
and
shit?
just the way the weather gets, the patterns, stuff like that. You get close to the ground, that's where like you die, right? You hit the ground. But anyway, they're like, hey, you sound like exactly what we want. Expect another follow-on email. And I'm like, cool. We'll see where this goes. Get a follow-on email, not knowing it's actually one of the owners. And he's just like, hey, you sound awesome. Like, how do you say we meet up in person? I'm like, that's actually what I prefer to do. Like, can we meet up in person? I want to check out your plane, shake hands kind of thing. Like just man-to-man kind of stuff. Come to find out, that's who I was talking to as the owner. So I go meet both the owners at the plane. It's actually getting, some maintenance done to it. And just kind of hit off from there. They're like, hey, like, we want to bring you on, like, right now. But, and I'm like, hey, well, I've got this rule. Like, I don't make big decisions like this without thinking about it and talking to my wife.
Yep.
Like, just, this is like a group discussion kind of thing.
And that made him respect you more.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Instead of just like taking the first
Yeah, because it shows you're a critical thinker. You're a reasonable human being. And that's probably who you want flying your plane.
I would think so. Yeah. Yeah. I'm an adult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I already knew like this is definitely what I was going to want to do, but I want to go talk to my wife and discuss these kind of things, and then come back to them. Give them some time to think about like what we're going to pay and kind of what this agreement's going to look like. And so I accepted that job, which is cool because the fire job was pushing the COVID stuff, and I wasn't having that. And ironically, the day I put in my 2 weeks notice with them, I was feeling my lymph nodes are feeling kind of funny. You know where this is going.
Yeah. But had you got that, it wouldn't have changed anything anyways.
Not a fucking bit.
And we all know that now.
Because I'm like generally pretty healthy anyway. So like I wasn't worried about this. Like you look at like statistics of COVID and stuff, it's like, hey, if you're like healthy, actually healthy, and your probability is like, nil pretty much. So
did you get decently sick from it, or were you okay?
I had the loss of taste and smell. The worst part of it was just body aches.
Yeah.
That was like it,
So exactly what you thought it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That was, definitely not the worst illness I've ever had, ever.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was like a week and a half of just like not feeling great. My body kind of having aches. I still worked out, still fucking got it in, still ate healthy food. And, took my vitamins and stuff like that and moved on.
And you made it.
No big deal.
Shocking.
Yeah, what do you call it? Like a winter of death and something, right? Remember Biden when he was like,
the winter of death is coming. Yeah, that's right.
One,
dude.
Yeah. He escaped.
You survived. Yeah, that's right. Marked safe from the winter of death.
Yeah, made it.
I think it's cool to really like shine a spotlight on that, because I keep seeing this same reoccurring theme where it's like, hey, someone's telling me to do something that's outside of my moral code. And man, like every person, like you did it, I did it, that stands up and says, you know what? I'm not fucking doing that. The universe fucking rewards courage. And I've seen it over and over and over to the point where this isn't a theory. This isn't something that's like, oh, these guys we got lucky. You know what I mean? No, it's like when you stand up for what you believe in and you're willing to put everything on the line, then inevitably that is powerful energy.
It's empowering.
Yes. Yeah, and it's going to put you in a position that actually serves you greater. And I've seen it happen too many times. And that's why, as you're sitting here telling the story, as cool as it is, it's also not surprising, because it's like, no, motherfuckers, this is my hard line and I'm not willing to bend. And oh, look, there's a beneficial outcome from being a strong, powerful man. And people need to fucking hear these stories, and they need to realize that's the truth. That's what happens when you stand up for things that you believe are important. You can call it karma or God or whatever, but when you fucking stand behind your morals, it ends up serving you somehow. Even though in that moment, it's kind of like, fuck, what am I going to do? And again, that's an uncomfortable feeling, right? Like we got kids and we got families and we got mortgages. And I'm sure at that moment was uncomfortable for you too, but you just have to trust the process,
That's what it is. You have to learn to embrace discomfort.
Yeah.
And like embrace it and kind of welcome it, because that actually makes you stronger, like 9 out of 10 times, right?
Yep, of course.
And you just kind of live that life and just keep growing from it, and things definitely work out. Make the right decisions, have a plan, have a couple plans, right?
Yeah.
Don't just like live life like a fucking butterfly and just kind of expect things to work out for you. You have to actually like go out and seek, that discomfort, seek the adversity, and strive to be better yourself, like every day, like live to be better.
So then, you're with them to this day.
So this is my new job. And it was kind of ironic because at the same time I was trying to start up another company, because I always wanted to start a company of some sort and like work for myself and have that control in life. So with this job, I was learning about like what this looks like, and I was like, oh shit, I can actually turn this into a company. So I made an S corp out of it, and so I actually essentially work for myself. They pay the company, and then I pay myself through it. And now I've got all the extra deductions and all the benefits that come with that as a business itself.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I can branch out through the business too, and I can do the same type of work for other people or hire people to come and do what I do, essentially, kind of thing.
And unless it goes against, like, if you're not comfortable saying it since it's a private client, but typically now, like, what are your destinations look like?
Oh, they've been pretty good, man. I mean, that's why I'm actually here today.
Yeah.
It's because of my job, so it worked out that way. But
or is it just always changing based on the client's needs?
It's sometimes always changes. So like one of them flies, I'd say probably like 80% of the time, the other like 20% of the time.
Okay.
And one flies mostly for pleasure with family and like some small business trips, and then the other one's like mostly business, some pleasure kind of thing with his family. And both amazing families. Like I couldn't be happier with these people I work with.
That's so cool.
They mutual respect. We have this like understanding. There's no like same day call outs type of thing for work. It's usually forecasted a week plus in advance, sometimes months in advance. If I want to plan a vacation or whatever, like, hey, I have this conversation. It's all about communication, really, which is obviously like one of the most important things with any business is communication. If you have other employees,
yeah.
And yeah, it's just, it works out really good for both of us. I've got a lot of free time, call it like working like less than half the month kind of thing.
That's cool, man. I'm fucking stoked for you. Because
cool.
Again, you're seeing I don't even want to call it a happy ending because you're still young and this is, you're just getting started,
man.
Yeah,
really.
But seeing a good trajectory come out of it.
Yeah,
it's cool, man.
Yeah, it's been really good.
And so you guys still living in that same place in Colorado then?
So we left Aurora right when COVID kicked off, like literally February, March. Yeah, March. We found a house. We were actively looking for a house. Found a house further south down like the Parker, Elizabeth area. If people know where that's at.
Okay.
We're kind of east. It's like more rural kind of county area. A lot of ranches around us. Found a sweet house with 1.5 acres. The like pinnacle like neighbor experience where like they welcomed us in there. Like they know more about our house than we did. They built their homes. Like it's like kind of a retirement community. So it's just really cool. We got awesome spot out there.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. And so that's where we are now. Living in that area. And I've got my son actually full time now. So just recently, a year ago, actually went and got full custody of him due to some crazy shit happening on his mom's side of the family.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I have him full time now, and life's honestly pretty good. So,
nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, we're coming up on 2 hours, and I know that you actually got to punch out here before too long. But the last thing we got to touch on is, we met yesterday because you came and trained with me.
Yeah.
And
it was awesome.
And I see you're a 4-stripe white belt. So you've been on the mats for
about a year.
I was going to say probably about a year.
Yeah, about a year.
Okay. And I guess just hearing you talk for the last 2 hours, I know you like challenging yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably what was appealing about jiu-jitsu, huh?
Jiu-jitsu, the big push is my wife and I actually, the whole family does it. We start all on the same day.
Okay.
But the big push for myself personally was the real world application, like
for sure,
combatives application, right? And I wanted to enhance myself because I'm very proficient with firearms. I actually train with Fieldcraft as like an assistant instructor with them like every month.
Okay.
Yeah, out of Colorado with Matt Vandy and Matt Shea.
Cool.
Some phenomenal instructors. But
and I don't remember if it was on the air or not, but I told you like Glover's coming out to my range this weekend.
Yeah.
So
that's freaking awesome. So great with firearms, but I was like, you can't use you can't use that tool for everything, and I have to actually be better at putting hands on and stuff like that.
I love that you articulated it like that, because at our course that we teach both grappling and firearm handling, it's like they're both tools. Your jiu-jitsu is a tool, and your Glock is a tool, and the situation is going to dictate what tool you get to implement. And thinking like one is over the other, you're just kind of telling yourself a lie, because there's plenty of times when I can't use my Glock, right?
Right.
Then there's other times when my jiu-jitsu is not going to work. So if you're a protector and you have a family, it's pretty imperative to understand both of those worlds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why I looked at all the different martial arts, and I looked at like, I think I was telling you yesterday, like Muay Thai and stuff like that, but I'm looking at longevity as well. Like not only did I want to do it just for the real world application, but also the physical application, the community, stuff like that. And jiu-jitsu just kept coming back to the foreground. Like, this is definitely the right path. And so we started looking for gyms actually during COVID, and everything was closed because Colorado forced everyone to shut their businesses down. A bunch of people went under. And as things started to open up again, we're like, hey, let's revisit this. Found an awesome gym. It's a GB, Gracie Bob Parker, and amazing community. I mean,
That's rad.
We went in the first day as a whole family during a kids class, and I just saw these little warriors, and I was like so fucking motivated. I was like, this is the future generation that's gonna like fix problems.
Yeah,
these are like problem solver kids right here. And I was like, let's fucking sign up right now. And so we all did like, the 1-day trial, but I already knew like we were signing up. But yeah, let's see what it's like and see what the instructors and coaches are like. And it was awesome.
And I tell people, and I get this question probably more than anything, so I'll say it again, because people are like, what should I be looking for in a gym? And it's culture.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for in a gym. You're not looking for how good the instructor's armbar is, right? You're looking for culture. And just like you said right there, you walked in and you saw these kids and you felt this energy. Like, that's what you want. You want to walk into a gym and you want to have that feeling like, this is my fucking home. And if you don't have that feeling, check out other gyms, because when that feeling hits you, you should know it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like when you walked into my academy last night, you're like,
as I was walking up, man, I was just like, started like chatting with people like, hey bro, like I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where the door was. And they're just like, oh yeah, well, welcome, first day. Like, fuck yeah. Like they're super stoked to have me there already.
Yeah.
Didn't know who I was, didn't know my name, didn't know my background. You just start shooting the shit, and I'm just like, cool, great people already.
Yeah.
You saw your CrossFit gym, like everyone's working out, like hustling in there. I'm just like, yeah, this is the kind of people I like, like hard workers and friendly people that are just all about the community.
It's so cool, man. Yeah. And that's exactly, 10% of what you get out of jiu-jitsu, I always say this, has to do with fighting. The other 90% is those things you just touched on, surrounding yourself with hard workers, like overcoming adversity, building camaraderie. There's so many different elements of jiu-jitsu that are super important beyond the actual learning to defend yourself. Even though obviously that's a fucking foundational element of what you're gaining out of there. Once you start to really dive in, you find how much bigger it really is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's pretty amazing community, really.
Well, bro, and I'm not saying this to toot your horn. This is just the truth, because we got a round in last night. You got great jiu-jitsu for a year.
Appreciate it, man.
Definitely. And, there's great jiu-jitsu for competition, and then there's great jiu-jitsu for self-defense. And a lot of that crosses over, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I'm not saying they're two different things, but I could already feel like our roll yesterday, like, yeah, I can sweep you and catch your arm because I'm a black belt. If I couldn't do that, we have a problem, right?
Right.
But I also could feel your energy and your base and your strength and your just the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu are very honed in for you. And like fighting you on concrete would not be fun, even as a white belt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's cool to hear you say this. You're getting into jiu-jitsu for a real world self-defense application, and you can already feel that in your game. You know?
Well, that was the mentality day one, is like, I'm not going to train just for sport. I have competed already, but that was more just to test myself, right?
Yeah, kind of course.
And just to see like where I stack and like how I'm progressing. But really it's, as I roll, I think like, could I be struck right now? Like, is my head in a horrible spot where I could get punched if they could get the reach?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I try and train with that mentality at all times as well.
And my journey in jiu-jitsu, all the way through my purple belt, I was doing MMA too the whole time. And so as I grew up on the mats, I was getting punched. And to this day, I think that was a very good thing to do, because it showed me where my jiu-jitsu was real and where my jiu-jitsu was lacking. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to go train MMA. I'm just saying it doesn't hurt to add some striking in. And I'm thinking about, I was talking to the team last night about expanding. I think when we expand, I'm going to offer a like combat jiu-jitsu class.
Fuck yeah.
Where we're not trying to knock each other out, but it's
just a reminder.
It's strikes that are maybe a 20% power, just to let you know you're vulnerable here.
Yeah.
And teach you that lesson, right? Because it doesn't matter what your martial art is. Every martial art has some element of deficiency. And I think as a gym owner, it would be a good thing to show people like, hey, if you want to see where your jiu-jitsu may have some flaws in a real world application, attend this class, and maybe just once a week or something, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be awesome.
So, but yeah, man, it's cool hearing that you decided to embark on this journey with your family, because what I see at my academy, I get that more often than not now, where people bring their kids in and then they're like, I mean, I get dads that are like, I'm 44 years old, but this looks like something I'm interested in. You think I'm too old to try it? I'm like, motherfucker, nope. I've had 70-year-olds. You know what I mean? Yeah. We had a 68-year-old guy come to our program, and he's a blue belt now.
Hell yeah.
And it's like, dude, it's never too late to start.
No,
you know?
It's the best day starts today.
And the family is enjoying the journey as well?
Dude, they're loving it. My kid competed actually with me too. It was it was so cool to watch, see how the deer in the headlights look happen. Him on his first competition and just like roll. And yeah, it was cool, man. He took second in his competition.
Yeah.
And, it was cool.
It's watching the kids compete. There's so much emotion behind that.
Emotion, but they're also like thinkers.
Yeah.
It's cool to watch.
But and I don't mean emotion in even a negative way. I'm just saying they get to really experience some anxiousness and have to work through that and problem solve and come out on the other side. And like, bro, those are life lessons that a lot of Americans will never feel.
No. And if they do, it'll crumble. Especially as an adult. Like
100%.
Our kids are learning this right now.
Yeah.
And these adults have never experienced that yet. When it happens after, 30 years of bad habits and no experience, they'll just be absolutely worthless.
They'll just see red and start throwing punches, bro.
Love that one. It's like, all right, bro. Well, I got a personal rule, man. I throw the first punch.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, man. We're at fucking 2 hours and 15 minutes or something. That burned by.
Yeah, too fast.
Is there anything else that was on your mind or anything you wanted to say that before we wrap this up?
Not going to self-plug myself, but...
I want you to we're going to self-plug you.
We did talk about different businesses and stuff, and I did start that silver business that hopefully we can try and put something together with that.
Oh, we're going to put something together.
But that was a really cool thing to start up as well. So it's called Spearhead Silver. And
Spirit of Silver?
Spearhead.
Silver. Okay.
Yeah. And it's like on Instagram and stuff like that. And that was just something that I could develop a creative outlet, really is what it was for. And it's just kind of kept evolving from there, from making actual like stamped silver to making jewelry and other type stuff. I actually custom forged essentially some brass knuckles out of silver the other day. And, it's been really cool to do that. And the artistic expression that comes out of it actually is like super cathartic.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of cool because I've never been like artistic, more like autistic,
Yeah, but bro, that's I think that's something that's lost on like the American warrior. It's like, we want to be hard all the time. But dude, sometimes painting, the Book of 5 Rings. I was just going to say.
I just started it.
There you go. Yeah. Like he talks about gardening. He talks about poems and writing poetry. Yeah. And he talks about art. And it's like, you want to be the toughest man in the world? Well, you have to be a balanced man then. And it comes with some of these other things that our American warrior culture would look at and be like, that's gay. Like, well, is it gay? Is balancing yourself?
I think we're starting to swing the pendulum right now, though.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a lot more of that artistic expression coming out with these, like super hard hitter veteran dudes, right? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, let's do 20 years of war. We'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So makes you appreciate other things.
Yeah, you give me a list of your different pages, and we'll put it all in the show notes below. People can reach out to you, and
especially on the aviation thing, or any veterans, or even looking just to do anything with college related. Like, I've definitely make myself a resource for you guys.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say is we talked about doing an endless endeavor. No one's coming to save you coin.
Yeah.
And we're going to do like a limited batch on those, and bro, they're going to be fucking rad.
Yeah. I'm pretty stoked about it. I've been working on some designs for you.
Cool, man. All right. Well, thanks for coming out. I know you got to get you back to the airport. I really appreciate this. It was cool hanging out. It was cool getting to train with you, and whether you like it or not, we're homies now. And when you're local, let's fucking kick it, man.
Hey, you as well. You come to the Denver region at all, we'll get a home for you.
Fuck yeah. All right, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.